It's time for Twit. This Week in Tech. Daniel Rubino's here from Windows Central. Brian McCullough from the Tech Meme Ride Home. And Brianna Wu, candidate for Congress in Massachusetts. We're going to talk about the brand new Apple MacBook Pro. Rumors about Surface Book 3. Why Apple kicked the vaping apps out of the App Store. And an AI that can tell you if you're going to die. It's all coming up next on Twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit, This Week in Tech, episode 745, recorded Sunday, November 17th, 2019. Highly illegal and very affordable. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Bombas. Bombas makes socks that are comfortable and look great for every occasion with a wide variety of options. And by the way, they're the most comfortable socks you'll ever wear. For 20% off your first purchase, go to bombas.com/twit. And by ExpressVPN. Protect your online privacy with one click. It's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/twit. And by Calm, the #1 app to help reduce your stress, relax your mind, and help you sleep. Get 25% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/twit. And by Worldwide Technology. Worldwide Technology's Advanced Technology Center is like no other testing and research lab, with more than $500 million of equipment, including great OEMs like Dell EMC. And it's virtual, so you can access it 24/7. To learn more and get insights into everything the ATC offers, go to wwt.com/twit. It's time for Twit, This Week in Tech, the show where we cover the week's tech news. Yes, I'm back. Thank you so much to the folks who hosted the shows while I was on vacation. Last week, Alex Lindsay. I understood he was an unruly bunch. Thank you, Alex, for holding down the fort. Who else hosted? Jason Snell. Did Snell host?
Jason Snell hosted.
Karsten.
And
it's in the
Jason, and then the week before
we had
that,
all the hosts, right? We had Jason, Micah, and Ant did a show, and that was great.
Yep.
Well, thank you, all of you, for filling in for me. I am here, and we have a great panel for you. Say hi to Brianna Wu, Congress candidate in the Massachusetts 8th, game developer, the Twitter personality formerly known as Space Cat Gal.
You're never going to let me live that down, Leo.
Her
Never.
campaign staff said, really, you should use your name.
I feel like you can't judge me for the Gmail I came up with when I was like in my early 20s, and I just stuck with it forever.
But
so
everybody is saddled with the handle they created first time they got online.
Yes.
That's how it is in life. I'm so old that I actually have my name. Also with us, Brian McCullough. He is our Tech Meme Ride Home host. Hello, Brian.
Hey, Leo. How are you?
Internet historian. It's good to have you.
Good to be here. My brother's handle on Prodigy was Physicata, but he spelled it wrong so that if you actually read it out, it was Psychata. And I pointed that out to him, and he got so pissed at me, but he never got to change it.
You can't change it. You're stuck. The only time you really should change it if there's numbers. Like if he's Physicata 4138, then you should change it. That's just bad. But I like Physicata or Psychicata, whatever it is. Also with us, Daniel Rubino, executive editor, Windows Central. Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Good. Thank you for having me on this wonderful, dark, gloomy Sunday, I should say.
Where are you?
It's cold out here.
Where are you?
I'm Massachusetts.
It's dark and gloomy.
Oh, yeah.
Is it dark? Like, is it snowing? Are you in an Arctic vortex?
It's getting there. We're pretty close to snow. So.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Hey. Are you in Western
Daniel,
Mass or Eastern Mass, Daniel?
Central Mass.
Central.
2nd District.
It's such a big state. They have 3
Worcester.
regions.
The 2nd largest city in all New England.
Oh, Worcester. I know Worcester. I grew up in Providence. But we don't call it Worcester. Yeah. We call it Worcester.
We call it the Woo.
The Woo.
It's also where the smiley face was invented. I don't know people, the hippie 1960s smiley face thing.
It was invented in Worcester.
I know it's weird that someone invented that, but yeah, that's where it actually started from. I have a Christmas ornament with it.
So if they invented it, did they make $1 million on it?
I don't know the status of the copyright for it, but there was the artist that made it and popularized it is from here.
I think they couldn't have made any money because it's just eyes,
pretty generic.
Eyes in a mouth. The only thing that's distinct about it has no nose.
Right.
Before we start the show, can I say, Daniel, I want to steal every one of those controllers on your shelf.
I know, isn't that awesome?
Yes.
I gave him a hard time about that the last time he was on. He's got the best controller collection in showbiz.
Oh, and that's only like a quarter of them. The rest are somewhere else in the house. So.
They're being used, the rest of them. These clearly are not.
Yeah, this is only the Xbox wing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do you use the Elite controller on your Xbox?
Yeah, when I can. I don't have the second one actually. The new one that just came out. So that's
that looks like a nice one. Paul was very excited about that one. I remember.
Yeah. So the Elite's pretty good, but then I love all the color and options. I don't know.
I could do that behind me with MacBook Pros.
Right.
And mostly MacBook Pros that are barely used because the keyboard was so crappy. Apple stunned this week when they announced not only we're going to give you a new 16-inch, which, by the way, I had given up on. I thought, because Ming-Chi Kuo, the analyst, said it'll be next year. They slipped it out, this little press release. But not only that, it has this, as far as we could tell for iFixit's teardown, it has pretty much the same keyboard as the classic 2015 MacBook. As somebody said, it's the Johnny Ived keyboard. I don't think you could blame Johnny Ive for those terrible keyboards, but anyway. Marco Armen on Marco.org is so excited. He had a list of things he wanted with the MacBook Pro, none of which he got it except for the better keyboard. He said, that's enough. That's all I need. A decent keyboard, scissor key switches. It's not cheap, but you can go up to 64 gigs of RAM. You can go up to 8 terabytes, which I don't know. I don't think anybody, Daniel, no Windows machine has 8 terabytes of storage, does it, laptop?
Yeah, I mean, most I've heard is 2. Yeah. Or you can do, there are computers now that have dual SSD slots in them. Some even have 3. Those are really rare. And you can make a RAID system.
I could do that on my Lenovo. One of my Lenovo, the ThinkPad Extreme, I think, had 2 extra, so I could put 2 drives in and plus the M.2 drive. So yeah, you could, but even then, 8 would be, you'd have to really jam a lot.
Yeah, I haven't seen many SSDs that you can buy that would, I guess if they're even RAID, you need 4 terabyte ones, which I haven't seen. I only know 2 terabytes, which are pretty rare. So
I don't know if it's
that's impressive.
I don't know if it probably is a special Apple part. They're known to do that. They're also using the newest i9 processors, which is actually not any different than the last MacBook Pro, except this time they're properly cooled. So Apple says it can actually be faster now.
It's impressive, in terms of specifications. I know developers are really excited about that. I mean, having 64 gigs and 8 terabytes, even with videographer, video editors are going to be really happy with those stats. And as someone who obviously covers Windows PCs, I'm a little jealous. I mean, we don't have that much that goes up that high in terms of specifications. I think the Dell XPS 15 will be the closest, but even that, you can now do 64 gigs. That comes with the latest Intel chips. They allow you to go that high. So you can do that. But that's those are some impressive numbers for a laptop.
And
$6,000.
It has a physical escape key.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I do want to say, Daniel, this one of the biggest differences between a Mac laptop and a Windows laptop is the implementation of OpenGL, which is inherently less efficient on Mac. Every test I've ever run,
Apple's abandoned it. Apple's abandoned it. They don't do OpenGL at all anymore.
But then you have to go over to Metal for everything. Right. And of course, the implementation of that is limited. This is my 2015 MacBook Pro, which I will never give up because it's got that discrete GPU in it. They've moved to integrated with the 13-inch, and this is the first laptop I've seen in a long time that if I were not running for Congress and I was developing games, I would really be tempted to go buy this. My 15-inch laptop, it's lasted me for 4 years. It's a great machine. And, at this price, you should be able to use it 5 or 6 years.
I think this is a reasonable replacement for that classic 2015, which I also used for years because it was the last decent keyboard. They do have a discrete GPU in these new ones. They have, of course, an AMD Radeon Pro. You can get the 5500 with 8 gigs of GDDR, or you can get the step down from that. If you max it out, it is a $6,000 laptop. But, and Daniel, maybe you can comment on this. Somebody in our Twit community mentioned that he got the same one I did, which was $36.99. But he said, but if I got the same specs in a Lenovo, it would have been over $4,000. So, is as expensive as these are, this is a high-end machine, and these aren't completely out of line for a high-end Windows machine either, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. Ever since Surface came out, their whole push has been to drive OEMs to make higher quality laptops. Right. And, back in 2015, I have the MacBook Pro because they were so good. Even putting Windows 10 on it was still sometimes a better experience
Walt Mossberg
than what we had.
In the Wall Street Journal famously said the best Windows machine out there is the MacBook Pro.
It's true. And in 2015, you can make that argument, But I would say because of Microsoft's pushing Surface, now you have HP, you have Lenovo, and Dell, who all make some really killer laptops in terms of quality, performance, and hardware that rival the MacBooks. And then you had Apple themselves screw up, right, with the keyboards. They had 4 years almost of really negative coverage of these keyboards, and you combine that, it's no surprise that they saw a dip in sales. Now they're this is good that they're making a comeback, right? This is going to be, I think, a really popular laptop. I think a lot of people will buy it. I think exactly like Brianna, like people from the 2015 version will definitely want to upgrade to this. And that's actually a nice upgrade path. I mean, 4 years is a long time, but if you have the 2015 version, that is what most people hold on to laptops for, 4 or 5 years. That's normal. It's not like people like me who gets one every 3 weeks. So I think this was a good move by Apple. But they didn't hold a press event, right? And I think the reason for that was obvious. They would have loved to have shared all this stuff, but half of it would have been, we're walking everything back. So that's not a good story to tell.
That's the amazing thing. Like, kudos to Apple for having walked this tightrope that we all knew they were walking, that they never had to admit that they screwed up, that they never had to do a recall. They just said, those magic keyboards that we ship with iMacs? Yeah, we put those in laptops now because those are really the best keyboards. And so they got to paint it as progress as opposed to admitting mistakes. Like that's chef's kiss sort of PR magic on there.
To be fair, they kind of admitted a mistake because they do have it's not a recall, but they do have a repair program for the
replacement
for the Butterfly fiasco. But you're right. And by the way, to Apple's credit, they admitted they made a horrible mistake with the last Mac Pro. They're not above admitting mistakes, but you're right. And this is just corporate PR. If you can avoid saying you were wrong, they are, let's not forget, still selling the Butterfly keyboard on every single other Mac laptop.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You want to talk about pent-up demand. When they bring this to the Airs especially, but also the 13 inches and things like that, like, there's so many people, myself included, that have waited on the sideline. I'm sitting talking to you on a 2015, so
wow. That's right. And so all three of you are using 2015 MacBook
because I saw the writing on the wall and I have one.
That's amazing.
Hold on to it. Never give it up.
No,
exactly. I am very disappointed they did not get rid of the Touch Bar. Apple moved this year. They got rid of 3D Touch, something I used. I have literally never used the Touch Bar in a way I went, that improved my experience. It feels like a solution in search of a problem. It eats up battery life. I cannot tell you how many times I've just wanted to turn the volume up and down, and you find yourself going through sub-menus. It's terrible. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. In a way, they did the same thing. They didn't admit it, but they kind of acknowledged there were issues. They moved it a little farther away because one of the problems I know you have, I have, is I hit, Siri launches every time I'm trying to hit a backspace. Yep. So they made it a little, and they separated the escape key and they separated the fingerprint reader. So the Touch Bar I have a feeling it's going to slowly shrink away to nothing. There'll just be a little touch strip and then a little touch slot. No, we don't have touch. There's no touch. What do you need? Because nobody's really taking advantage of it. I think you could perhaps say to Apple, say on their behalf, they were hoping that this new user interface, lots of apps would use it and it would become a very valuable tool, but no, not really. That happens sometimes. That's not completely Apple's fault. Yes, it is. It's a piece of crap. I'm sorry.
The weird thing about the touch bar is we just look at it. It seems like a cool idea.
Yeah. Oh, it's really cool if you do the kit, if you make it from Knight Rider, if you have the kit thing going back and forth, then it's cool.
And that's why I always find weird about tech is sometimes like you see something in photos, and obviously Apple's very good at graphics. But if you were to show anyone that in like 2015, I think most of us would be like, oh, that could be kind of interesting. That's kind of cool. But then it turns out that in practical usage, it turns out it's not a good idea. And it's a poor substitute for their lack of touchscreens, which is
that's really what it was about, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if Apple knew that it was going to be stupid and useless, and so you got to give them some credit for at least trying stuff, right?
Well,
that's the Knight Rider, man. That makes it so cool. You'll even play the Knight Rider theme if you wanted to.
Well, and in their defense, all it would have taken was one app to have made a killer use of it, Right. Some Adobe or somebody had used it, and oh my God, it's transformed how I use Photoshop or whatever.
Right.
If one person had been able to do something with it, then we'd be having a different conversation.
Yes, exactly.
I think this is one of the benefits with the PC world because you have so many manufacturers and OEMs. Like you have Lenovo, I've been giving a lot of credit to. Like they make some really wacky stuff, right? We have like the Yoga Book, the thing with the dual screens and keyboard. Yeah. Now they weren't expecting that to sell a ton, and it was kind of an experiment for them to put it out there. And it's neat that they can do that and not have to like be their entire reputation. Whereas Apple has so few laptops that when they commit to something, it's the only version that's going to be out there. So they either take it away the next year, which is just an obvious thing, or they try to ride it out for a bit. But at some point, they have to make a decision as to its future status. I think this time they're going to wait till they do a significant redesign again before they pull it out. So
yeah. I think that's fair. I mean, 3D Touch, I remember I had a column in Mac Life about this, talking, like, you think about it in theory, it makes a lot of sense. I could imagine racing games where it gradiated your acceleration and brake versus how hard you're touching the screen. You could imagine a lot of interface uses for that, but just year after year went by and there was no real use for it other than as a keyboard shortcut. And I think Apple should look at that and say, is this increasing our users' experience? Because if I'm trying to turn my screen brightness slightly up or slightly down, it's easier to just hit that key once or twice versus, okay, let me tap this, go to the slider, move it over. It's bad UI. And I wish Apple would admit that it's not working.
I think you're right, Daniel, though. Daniel's right that because Apple is the only manufacturer of Apple computers, Macintosh computers, they don't have the luxuries that, I mean, God, the best thing about the PC, I hate Windows 10. But and I'm sorry, Daniel, you have to cover it. But
it's all right.
I mean, what's going on with Windows 10? 1909, people are saying all sorts of horrible Microsoft can't seem to put out an update that doesn't break. Maybe that's because they're 1.5 billion users, I don't know, but they seem to have problems with the software. On the other hand, the great thing about the Windows ecosystem is the variety of hardware. You could find a laptop no matter what crazy thing you want. If you want a great keyboard, you get a Lenovo ThinkPad. If you want thin and light, HP's got those great new Spectres.
Daniel, is there ever going to be a Surface Book 3?
Yes.
They said there is. They said there's going to be.
They haven't said publicly, but I mean, we're expecting definitely. There's always two Surface events, right? There's usually a spring one and, of course, the October event. I would not be surprised if we see something come around for spring. I think the holdup is because Intel 10th Gen they want to use, but that class of 10th Gen that they use or want to use is not actually out yet. I think they'll only release a quarter of the Intel 10th Gens to market. So I think we'll have that along with RTX 2060.
For those that aren't following the ins and outs of the Surface line, the thing that's unique about the Surface Book, it's a laptop, but it has a special hinge and you can detach the screen so it can become like it can undock. And it was always, I had this first one, it was a source of a lot of difficulty because the GPU was in the keyboard. So all of a sudden you have a machine where you've disconnected from the GPU and the operating system just goes nuts. And it took them a long time. It took more than a year for them to solve that problem.
Yep, and there's still occasionally issues. It's definitely a tough engineering problem in terms of just even the durability of that hinge, but also, as you mentioned, the electronics of disconnecting the GPU while you're active is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And it's a weird device. I mean, they have to have telemetry on this. Most people probably aren't actually using it as a tablet, right? But
I never detached it, not once. So all of that pain was pointless.
Yep.
Now I think the Surface Laptop, which is a laptop but it doesn't detach, is actually a very nice device.
Yes.
And I think they're getting very good reviews on the new one.
Yeah, the 15-inch one is a little.
That's the AMD. Now, are they have it? So tell me, first of all, it was an older AMD chip. It wasn't the current generation.
Well, it's technically current, but AMD hasn't released a new Ryzen series for laptops, which
it was
are
a 2000 series, right?
Yeah.
Not the 3000. So how, I was gone. How's the reaction been to this? Is it?
Yeah, it's an okay chip, but even I feel like Microsoft oversold its performance. Yeah. And this really comes back to, getting to the Mac too. So when you look at the 16-inch MacBook Pro, I think it's a beast. It's got some serious graphics power. It's comparable to the Dell XPS 15 in terms of just performance ability.
Actually, but when it's comparable to an iMac Pro. It's a pretty high-end Mac.
But when you look at the Surface Laptop 3, the 15-inch, they're like, oh, it's the fastest in its class. And I remember I smirked when they said that because I was like, it's class.
What class is that? Is that machines with Alcantara keyboard rests?
Well, it's class. It's basically a 15-inch Ultrabook. So Ultrabooks are defined by their processors being 15 watt, not a Dell XPS 15 has a 45 watt chip in it. And so it's world of difference. So when you say it's the fastest in its class, there's barely any 15-inch Ultrabooks. And there's a reason for that, which is when people go to 15-inch, they tend to then commit to a 4-pound device that's going to have serious performance. Right. And I get what Microsoft was trying to do here. 15-inch Ultrabooks do have a role. Some people just want that. But the AMD, it's a generation behind the Intels in terms of CPU performance. It's not nearly as good. It's not as efficient on battery life. They weren't able to do things like use DDR4X, which helps with battery. It doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, which is weird. It has Wi-Fi 5. And so and you can compare it to the Intel version. Like you can go buy the Intel version of the Surface Laptop 3 15-inch. You just go to a Microsoft store and ask for it in the back, and they'll get it for you. And if you directly compare those, the Intel version is just faster. The GPU for AMD is slightly better, but not worlds difference. But I feel like this is a long-term play for Microsoft. They're spreading the love around. They got AMD now. They got Intel. They got Qualcomm.
They got ARM. Yeah. How are people liking the XT?
Oh, the Surface Pro X.
Yeah, X rather.
Yeah. My review goes live actually probably Monday or Tuesday.
So how are you liking it then?
I like it, but it's very nuanced. It's for the right person, it's a perfect device. But for a lot of people, they're probably better off with the Surface Pro.
I have the Surface Go, which I really like. I like the size. I like the fact that it's always on. I would love longer battery life.
Sure.
Its performance is not great, but I did buy the HP NVX2, which had the ARM processor, and that was unusably slow. This is supposedly a little faster because they're using a faster Qualcomm.
It's significantly faster.
Is it? So it's usable.
Yeah.
Except you have to use ARM apps.
That's where it gets the nuance, right? So apps that are recompiled for ARM64 or UWP apps that are found in the Microsoft Store run very well on it. We're talking, even with the GPU, it can be an 8th Gen Core i5,
really?
Even with graphics.
That's very good news. But the bad news is that the non-ARM, not recompiled apps run terribly, right? They're very slow.
I wouldn't say terrible. It'd be equivalent to about a Core i3 for an 8th Gen.
That's not bad. That's usable.
No. It's quite good. What it is, though, you'll take a little hit on the performance and a hit on battery life. And that's the trade-off. But so, in my review, I talked about what I use it for. I use it for Office, right, which is recompiled for ARM. So Office, Word, OneNote, Excel. I use Slack. I use Teams. I use Skype. I use GroupMe. I use To-Do. I use the new Edge browser, which has been recompiled for ARM64. I use Hulu, Netflix, Sling, Disney Plus. I use as a PWA. So I do all this stuff, and it runs perfectly fine.
It's designed for those apps. And if that's what you're going to use, you're going to be fine. So Slack is Electron. Are all Electron apps recompiled for ARM?
They will be. So Electron actually did get converted to ARM64, but I don't think the store app has been updated for that. But that happened over the summer.
So that's good news because there are a lot of Electron apps out there.
Yep, and Unity too, which is important for games.
Interesting.
So you're seeing this, it's about the ecosystem building up. And so this device is really about sort of getting it out there and sort of driving it. But yeah, it depends on that one app, right? I know a lot of people are like, oh, I need Adobe Lightroom or something.
Good luck.
And that's
Lightroom doesn't run well on a 10-core Intel chip.
Right. Yeah, and that's where I feel like this is the issue that PCs have, which is the beauty of a PC is it can do anything technically. Right. You could run, like, I have these little mini PCs with the little 7-inch displays. I could install Adobe on that if I want to. Does it run well?
No.
That's a separate question, right? And everybody has a different threshold. Some people are happy with the Surface Go's performance. A lot of people aren't. Whereas a Mac doesn't really have this much variation. And so that's the issue is when people look at the Surface Pro X, they're like, oh, I'm going to do everything on that because it's a Windows 10 PC.
No.
And there's there's caveats, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to game on it, it's terrible. You don't want to game on this thing.
But no gamer would buy an X. That's crazy talk.
You'd be amazed, though. This is, again, the thing with PCs. People are like, can I install...
It's a PC,
Yeah, Call of Duty on this. It's like, oh, really? But I would say Project xCloud, right? We know Project xCloud was announced this week. It's coming to Windows PCs.
This is the streaming version of Xbox gaming. So all the work is done not on your computer, but on the server.
Right. And I know internally they're testing it on the Pro X. They don't expect people to go buy a Pro X to use this, but at the same time, they say it's a really nice experience if you do that. So that's coming in early 2020. You can stream your Xbox games, play Call of Duty on it. Is that a solution for all people? Probably not. Is it a solution for some people? Yeah, totally. Actually, it's going to be a really interesting alternative that gets around this where you still can carry around a laptop that weighs 2 pounds and gets all day battery life, has LTE.
Should Apple, which has been rumored to be going to ARM, should Apple be watching this experience closely?
They're in a little bit better position because of the fact that they they design their own.
They'll design their own. Yeah.
And their chips are really impressive and probably, and
they're all 64-bit.
Yeah, and they have the iOS ecosystem, right, and the iPadOS ecosystem.
Yep.
So in that sense, they're a little bit better positioned. Their issue is they need to get their stuff so it's more like a PC instead of, iPhone apps on the larger screen. So they're coming from a different problem where Microsoft's trying to get their stuff a little bit more like iPhone apps, casual games, and all this kind of stuff. So they're both coming from different areas. But
interesting.
Yeah, the industry's moving to ARM, right?
I like it that we're in an industry. For a long time, Intel was so dominant, that's all you had. Now we've got ARM, now we've got AMD back in the game. I think that's good. Yeah.
AMD is expected to have a really strong, 2020.
At CES, they're going to announce some really nice stuff. They've got a new 4000 chip for laptops. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brianna.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, I think Microsoft is in a really interesting position with their streaming service. If you look at Google Stadia, which I got to play
tomorrow
this year. Yeah, they've got 15 games announced for it. I probably shouldn't say this, but I have friends of mine on the Xbox team, and they saw Stadia when they came out and the lineup for it. They're working on Microsoft's streaming solution. They're like, woo! All right, we don't have to worry about that much.
Yeah, because games drive these platforms, and there's nothing.
Oh, of course it does. And I will be honest, you're making fun of it, but I'm the exact kind of person. I'm like, if I'm buying a Windows machine, I want Steam because there's a limit to how many games I can get to work on Mac. Yep. The Surface Pro X, I thought was the most interesting device to come out of that Surface event. The hardware looks great. The device looks great. I got the Surface Go, and I took it back because I'm like, there are too many compromises with speed on this.
Exactly
if you look at Xbox, it's got the infrastructure there to really bring forward a streaming solution that works on those kinds of devices. So I'm thinking about where Microsoft is going to be 5-6 years from now. And I can really imagine their streaming Xbox game service working well enough that you could say, okay, I can move to ARM, I can get that battery life, and I can play Civ when I need to do that. I just think it's really looking very promising.
So as a game developer, you're picking xCloud, Cloud X, whatever the hell it's called.
All the way.
Over Stadia, over any. And PlayStation, they bought Gaikai, they've got a streaming solution too, right?
It's not very good. The colors are off. It's still off a little bit with
wait a minute, the colors are off.
Look at it. The browns are very enhanced. It's more muddy than a lot of games. If you look at PlayStation now. Does that have to do with the streaming
technology? Why is that?
I assume it's like looking at a game through a filter, or like if you haven't cleaned your glasses. It's off. It's weird.
So Cloud X is going to be the way to go.
I think it has the most potential.
It'll be the last one to come out.
Yeah. And what I hear from game developers over and over, think about it from their point of view. You're asking, like an Ubisoft can go and say, okay, we're going to spend a couple $1 million porting over Assassin's Creed Odyssey to this because we're freaking Ubisoft, right?
Right.
And it's a game that already exists. But if you're asking a developer to bet on a platform when Google has such a long history of just destroying platforms in a very short amount of time, that's not something a lot of game developers are going to do. If you're talking about Xbox streaming, it's still x86. I assume it's going to work with the same tools if you're doing Xbox development. It's easier for the game dev pipeline, and it's an easier sell.
Brianna, do we? This is completely jumping back to Stadia, but do we know why they're going ahead with the launch if everything? Forget about the games. Like the controllers aren't working. Stadia Connect isn't going to be part of the launch. Cloud Play's got. Well, why are they going ahead if they could just?
Because they're Google.
Right. That's it.
Everything's in beta.
I think they don't understand. Like, gamers expect a reasonably polished experience on, if not day one, then close to it. It's exactly like you said. The controllers are a mess.
Now, let's be fair.
Yeah.
In the last 5 years, every massive AAA title has come out, been horribly buggy. The servers have crashed. I mean, I think gamers might be a little bit more used to failure on day one than you say.
But not with the system itself. If you're going and buying a Switch, on day one, you had a certain number of titles that you could play and enjoy. PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. Right. You expect that when you go plunk down that amount of money. The buy-in is less for Stadia, but it's not even about who buys it. It's about getting buy-in from the developers. I literally have never met a game developer in my life that's like, I'm betting my company on Stadia.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
Yeah, there's just too much competition. There's also, let's not forget, there's Apple. And you can make money in an iOS game pretty good, pretty easy.
Yeah.
So
Arcade is
I think with Google.
Arcade is great, isn't it? And you can play that on your Apple TV.
Mm-hmm. I think Google's issue also was just the way the messaging came out for this. So they announced it. And I admit, like, when they announced it, I was like, ooh, like, this could be a big deal, But then what happened was the details came out.
Yeah.
Over the next few months, little bits started trickling out. Oh, only 15 titles. Oh, it won't work on this hardware initially. Oh, it only works on the Pixel 3. And so and it won't work on the PC. Like, all these little, and so the story got worse and worse and worse. And that's usually not the way you want to do any kind of announcement, right? So it was about expectations, and I think expectations were a little bit of a mystery when they first announced it, but it looked pretty positive. And then as we got closer and closer to launch, it was just like one letdown after another. Now, they could still recoup from this. I think this is still early days, but I think Brianna's right here. I mean, the fact is, Microsoft's been thinking this. We started reporting on them doing cloud streaming and experimenting with it in 2013. That was our first story on it. So they've been thinking about this for a really long time and architecting it. And when you tied into the Xbox Game Pass and the low cost of entry and the options where you can stream from your console or from their cloud, it does have sort of a better story, I think. And they have Azure around the world. They're just kind of set up for this. But, I want Google to actually kind of do well here because I want to see the competition, go back and forth. I think gamers want that as well, and as consumers will benefit from it. But right now, Stadia looks a little bit disappointing.
Sometimes I almost feel like these are more demos for the cloud infrastructure that Google and Microsoft can offer than the actual gaming experience. It's like, oh no, we can do scalable, massive networks. Look, and it's really it almost feels like Cloud X and other things are just a show off for Azure as opposed to
kind of. I mean, in a sense, they are. I mean, because I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft ends up selling Azure to other companies. There's even talk with Sony that they would help power Sony.
I think Apple's using it too. I mean, Azure is. Yeah. Actually, we'll get into that because there's some little little fight going on over Jedi, which we'll get to in just a little bit. And I do, I'm glad because we have, Brianna's a game developer going way back, so we have Brianna's expertise. Does Stadia comes out tomorrow, though, doesn't it? Is that right? Did you get your Premier Edition yet, Karsten? Did it come yet?
It has not come
Mine
yet.
has not either. Is it going to come tomorrow?
They're shipping in waves.
Yeah. Some people are not actually going to be able to.
But I got the Premier first day.
Well, if you got it the first day, then it's if you ordered it the first day, then it's likely.
I didn't. You did, right? You ordered it right away.
No, I didn't even order it.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I don't. It's not something I
know Zach thinks it's stupid.
Yeah, Zach thinks it's really stupid.
Yeah.
Someone who will have it tomorrow and has had it for several days already is Jason Howell. So he will have a
tomorrow,
day one review.
We will have a day one review.
Yes.
Of Stadia.
Yes, we're gonna. Of
course, we have
Hands on Tech is going to have a.
We have more bandwidth than God in here. This is not a very good test. This is our 10 gigabit symmetric line. It works great. Yeah. Hey, I feel bad for men. Because in most species, it is the male of the species, the peacock, that gets the feathers, the plumage, gets to look good, looks to fancy. In the human, of all the species, the human species, men, we don't get much. We wear business suits and white shirts, and we're boring dressed. There's only really two ways men can show their plumage. One is with a necktie. I'm not wearing a necktie. One is with your socks. And I am convinced that getting a great, fancy, cool-looking sock is the key to style for men. That's why I'm a Bombas subscriber. I love my Bombas socks. Do you know about Bombas? Bombas makes socks that are super soft, crazy cozy, and styling. They look great no matter what the occasion, whether you're athletic, dress, or casual socks. They have all kinds, including, and Lisa's saying I have to try these. I've never done this. I always like socks that show, but they also have, this is what all the kids are wearing these days, these no-show socks. So you see people wearing loafers and it looks like they're not wearing socks. They're wearing Bombas, see? No show. You can also get ankle socks. I happen to like quarter or even calf socks. I do not wear knee-high, but they have those as well. They're all made from super soft natural cotton. Every pair comes with arch support. Yeah. When you try your Bombas, they are the most comfortable socks. They are not merely a liner to keep your foot from touching your shoe. They are a part of the entire shoe architecture. A seamless toe, so there's no lumps. The cushioned footbed is comfy, but not too thick, but you will notice the difference. I got a 12-pack here, but you can choose singles, 3-packs, and even 12-packs with many colors, patterns, lengths, mix and match. They look great no matter where you are. Guys, we need a way to show our style. And this is how I show my style with Bombas. Also, by the way, a great company that give back to their community. The socks are one of the most important things if you're homeless. They are the #1 most requested item in homeless shelters. For every Bombas purchase you make, they donate a pair to someone in need. So this is a great way to give a gift of socks for the holidays and give to others as well. You can do both. BOMBAS, Bombas.com/twit. Who knew there was so much tech in socks? But I can tell you, as a Bombas wearer, there is no better sock. You can get 20% off your purchase right now if you go to bombas.com/twit. 20% off. So buy a lot. Buy a bunch of them. Give them to friends. Bombas. Thank you, Bombas, for your support of This Week in Tech. All right. I guess we've talked about, I was going to save this Stadia conversation. I guess we've done it. Last week, there was conversation about the Apple Card being sexist. And actually, people took it seriously. I laughed. I was reading David Heinemeier Hanson's DHH's tweet where he said he and his wife filed for Apple Cards and he got a 20 times higher credit limit and he says it's sexist. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. The New York Department of Financial Services is opening an investigation. Goldman Sachs says it's going to reevaluate credit decisions for those who got less than they thought. I got to point out, Lisa, my wife, and I both applied for Apple cards. Her credit limit's like 3 times mine. I didn't tweet, oh, it's sexist. Women get more credit. These things are complicated. Is there, in the aftermath of this, I know we talked about it last week, but in the aftermath of this, is there any, I mean, Apple's taking it seriously.
I think the feminist revolution, maybe this is not the biggest priority we have. Maybe. I don't know. It's
hashtag more credit.
Yeah.
See, remember, David Hannemeyer Hansen, creator of Ruby, one of the founders of Basecamp, is filthy rich. I mean, really, you should see his car collection. In fact, it blows me away that you can make that much money in software. I don't know what his wife's credit history is. I think it's more complicated and nuanced than that. And that is a data point of 1. Now, Woz also tweeted. But again, Wozniak has made a little bit of money on Apple. His wife, Janet, I love Janet. She's, she came from Apple education. I don't take it. The fact that I got less credit than my wife, I don't take that personally. That's just what you get.
Can I step forward to be the devil's advocate?
Yes.
On this?
Is there something why would Goldman Sachs prefer men over women? Give better credit to men. Why would they?
Why did Apple partner with Goldman Sachs in the first place? But
well, I can tell you that the answer to that is Goldman Sachs has a terrible reputation. They've never done consumer credit. They wanted to get into banking. They have an internet banking play called Marcus. So this was a way for them to kind of establish their bona fides.
Yeah, but except for the fact that, and we can talk about this later, like Google getting into giving you a checking account and things like that, they're partnering with somebody in their backyard that's a small, whatever. Okay, the devil's advocate thing is it's about the algorithms, it's about them being black box, it's about it being opaque, it's about there being potentially bias in the algorithms. So
yeah,
I guess. I mean, if I'm a credit card company, I don't put a line item that says, "Oh, if it's a woman, give her less." I say, look at her FICO score, look at all these factors, and admittedly, it's a black box. There's a lot of factors, but why would you put gender in there? You want to lend money. You're there to give people credit.
Yeah. I feel like there's a longer policy discussion to be had about the way these algorithms affect us. There's a very popular piece of software used in sentencing for criminal trials. And, studies have shown this does have a bias against people of color. So,
as soon as you said sentencing for criminal software for sentencing, that right there was a bad idea.
Absolutely. And I'm just saying there's a discussion to be had about how the algorithms affect our lives. Is this something we want to waste our precious national attention on? I want to be honest with you, Leah. When you run for office, you have a team that does social media. I was so disappointed to see my team tweeting about this as if it was a feminist outrage because I don't care.
There's plenty more to worry about, including income disparities and things like that.
Right.
Can I point out to her credit, Jamie, JHH, his wife, did a blog post where she said, quote, "This is not merely a story about sexism and credit card algorithm black boxes, but about how rich people nearly always get their way. Justice for another rich white woman is not justice at all."
Oh, yeah, by the way.
To their credit, they're aware of that.
We should say that she was, her credit limit was raised as soon as he tweeted about it. Although you can always do that. You can appeal. I've often appealed my credit limit and got more credit. That's a pretty common thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Is this bad for Apple that they partnered with Goldman Sachs and this is going on?
I mean, I think it's just bad that they partnered with Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, bad enough.
I just don't like... I just want banking just to be normal. Like I feel like banking is sort of like the cab industry, which it was so bad that it gave rise to like Uber and Lyft.
Right.
And now we have Uber and Lyft solved a lot of problems and, spurred innovation, but it's also created some other issues too. But like the only reason Uber and Lyft were so successful is because the cab industry was so bad, right? There's like no reason why they couldn't have been doing these things themselves years ago. And I feel like banking's the same way, where it's just like the banks just, there's like really no reason why you need to physically go into a bank anymore and all this kind of stuff. So you're seeing this rise of just all digital stuff. And I'm okay with that. But now you're getting into this like, I don't even understand why there's an Apple credit card, or why Google wants to give me checking.
Well, there's an answer for that.
It's money. Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, no, and that's why.
Why in heaven's name would Apple want to make money? What's wrong with that?
But it's like getting into this whole speculation and financial bubble, like the whole thing that Goldman Sachs was like got a bad reputation for it, the mortgage industry. This was inevitable, though. This was no matter, even if they did it with another bank, this was inevitable, right? Yeah. If you're doing a credit card, you're gonna get some blowback.
Yeah, I think that's what was so surprising to me. I mean, if you think about Apple, the experience bottom line should be joy, right? When I go into an Apple store and I buy the new headphones or a new iPad or something, it should just be an experience of joy. And I understand why they did this. Leah, did you know that Sony today, their number one most profitable division, the last time I looked, was their financial services division. Their
specifically insurance.
Yeah, right. And then it was the PlayStation.
Right.
That is what is holding Sony together these days. So I understand Apple.
You have to diversify. You have to.
Right. I understand that move, but it just feels so counter to the emotion. Apple doesn't need the cash. I don't understand why they would take this kind of hit.
I'd agree with you, except I said exactly the same thing about 15 years ago when there was rumors that Apple was going to make a cell phone. And I said, why would Apple want to get in that business? That is the worst possible business. If working with carriers is a terrible idea. Boy, was I wrong.
Now, here's another.
I was just going to say quickly, tech, though, like tech, you have like innovation. And like you go look at the iPhone, and what we all got wrong was we didn't really see how far they were going to push the model and really change things. When it comes to financial services, I mean, the reviews for the Apple credit card were hilarious. Like, people were going off about how the gradient changes in the app with your purchases. I know. Like, this was like innovation, like in the sense of like technology or even like the iPhone, right? So like, I don't know. I just don't see this as a play for money, but I feel like consumers are getting more and more pressure for all this kind of stuff, and it's not really making our lives better, right?
No. Actually, there were opportunities in fintech. I think fintech is like the cab industry, a place that could really be disintermediated and improved upon.
Oh, and by the way, there's tons of that, Leo. I mean, there's all of these, like Daniel's saying, not even that. There's all those European banks that are coming over here now that are completely,
all online.
All online. And, I'm with you, Daniel. I said on my show this week that, sorry, guys, I only want to do banking with a bank, even though I hate my bank. There's nothing that they do well for me, but I'm going to give my money to a bank because, why does Apple need to do this? They're not in with the data. Why is Google interested in giving you a checking account? This is a quote from the Wall Street Journal. Checking accounts are a commoditized product and people don't switch very often, but they contain a treasure trove of information, including how much money people make, where they shop, what bills they pay. Right. So you want to talk about innovation, the innovation that tech can bring to things. The innovation that Google wants to bring is, again,
a checking account. That's nuts. I mean, there's got to be something better. This is 18th century technology. There's got at least, I'm sure Google won't make us write checks, or maybe they will. I don't know.
No, but forget that. They'll probably, the innovation will be that you never have to write a check. Right. All they care about is knowing what your monthly spend is on entertainment and blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
It's very easy to look at anything Google does and say, well, it's about the data. I mean, they give us a lot of free services. Look at Google Photos. I'm constantly amazed by what you get from Google Photos for nothing, including unlimited photo storage. And I have 40 or 50,000 photos on there. But it isn't nothing.
They're using those photos themselves, right? That's for their own algorithms and training and all this. So, I mean, everything they do, and I don't want to hate on Google necessarily, but everything they do is to benefit them for their larger picture. It's like, I know they're like, and we'll talk about this, later, or we'll talk about now, but the health stuff with Google, right?
Let's talk about this. Yeah, Project Nightingale.
Yeah, and so this is just another I don't doubt that they can contribute to the healthcare industry and use their algorithms and detecting in X-rays. And like, there's definitely a discussion there where this technology could be helpful. But let's not, forget the fact that Google wants to do this because it benefits them on a larger scale too. It's a market for them. It's not like, oh, we're going to donate our servers to help cure cancer.
This is not the first time, though, that Google has tried to collect health information. Google Health. And Microsoft did it, too, with Microsoft Health. Both companies abandoned their health plans, probably because of privacy issues.
Yeah. Microsoft's in it, but they're on the back end now.
Right. They want to do electronic records.
Not the consumer.
Yeah.
But with Fitbit, you got Fitbit now, you got this stuff going on. Now you want to tie your financial data to
So
Google.
that's an interesting one. Talk about data. Google acquired Fitbit.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the process, they get the Pebble patents.
Yeah, right. Pebble's not coming back.
Come on!
I know. Amazed. I love the Pebble crowd, but it's like
the Rebel is called the Rebel, the software that keeps Pebble alive.
My son still wears his every day.
That's so crazy to me. I respect it, but it's like Windows Phone users. I'm like, it's time to move on.
Who wants a watch that only tells the time, Karsten? Come on. But there's no market for that. So
the Fitbit thing is
do you think we should worry if you're a Fitbit user and who isn't? Who didn't at some point use Fitbit? Should you worry that Google now has that entire database of health information? Or who cares? I don't care if Google knows how many steps I took in 2008.
It's an interesting discussion. I've been a huge fan of Fitbit, covering them for years. I've always recommended their stuff. Once this news broke out, I know a lot of Fitbit users are just upset. Dropping it.
Yeah.
And even I've stopped using it. And it's an interesting question, right? Because part of me is the concern over the health stuff. I don't want Google knowing that info. And it's not so much like I'm worried about anything in particular.
Well, that's my question. Like, and this comes up a lot on all of our shows, which is, and this is the general thing. In fact, the New York Times today, in its Sunday edition, could you get the New York Times magazine from my office? It has a wet, grumpy cat on the front and saying, what went wrong with the internet? We had such high hopes for the internet. And Kevin Roos has a long article about how it's a horrible thing, and only people who have money now can use the internet safely and privately. But we talk about it a lot, but in every one of these cases, I keep saying, well, okay, but there's certainly, you can't deny there's a lot of benefit. There it is. Online cesspool got you down. And there's a bunch of grumpy cats, grumpy wet cats with I don't know what's on them, and it doesn't look healthy.
Yeah. No. Just a German? No, sorry.
Yeah, I don't quite get what they're going with that photo and illustration, but
I think it's mud.
What? Oh, let's say it's mud. Let's just say it's mud.
Leo, can I tell you about area policy? I've been looking at a lot lately.
Yes, you're going to be on the front line of this when you get elected to Congress.
I had, when you run for office, you talk to a lot of lawyers. And I'd never thought about this until a couple of weeks ago. So there's a kind of asymmetrical legal warfare going on with defense prosecutors, where if the government is building up a case against someone, they have the power to go and subpoena a massive amount of information. A really good example, let's say a mugging takes place in a park. They can go cast a geofence and subpoena Google and get the information of every single Gmail account that was in that park.
That's okay. You're right. There's a bad one. Yeah.
So, and I'm just we brought up Project Nightingale. I also talked to a doctor this week that told me he spent 45% of his day doing electronic paperwork on his patients. He felt every single system he'd ever used was broken. He wanted to see some unification and improvement there, which Project Nightingale could do. That's a good thing. On the bad side of this, you look at this and you're like, okay, if Google has all this information from Fitbit, does that mean they could eventually trade this to your insurance company? It's theoretically illegal now. Maybe it's not going to be illegal 10 years from now. What if there's a case of the government building a criminal case against you or a civil case? So I'm just saying all this stuff has very wide ramifications that we've never really had a discussion about in this country.
Yeah. And I agree we need to have the conversation, and I agree we need more members of Congress like you who have technical literacy so that they can intelligently talk about this. I think there's also a risk, though, just to say, oh, big tech is bad. We've just got to throw that out, because there's real benefits, too. And
aggregate.
I just signed up for Apple's health research thing they released this week, and you can do a hearing study, a heart study, and I think there's a study for women on menstrual cycles, and you contribute data. There's a whole big thing you have to agree to, but I did it not because I think it's valuable to collect this data and to get insights from it. I'm not worried about, somebody know. I think this is good, right? Is it that we trust Apple to do this and not Google?
That's what it is. I mean,
I was
Apple
just going to say, because
I don't think Apple's necessarily more trustworthy than Google.
Yeah, but Daniel said that Google is doing this for their own interest. Well, Apple's doing everything for their own interest too. It's just that we are Apple's customers. The problem with Google is we're never their customers. Right. The advertisers are always their customers. So in a way, this Google story with the health records, it's almost like the quintessential tech story at the moment because, the rap on Google is all they ever do is their tech is only to serve ads to you, right? All the great things they give you is only to serve ads. So here's an example of them saying, look, health is a huge societal issue. Healthcare, let's make it cheaper. Let's digitize it. So on the one hand, you want to be like, congratulations, Google. You're finally you're doing something that's really going to put a dent in the universe. But then on the other hand, you're like, are you only ever going to do this not for us because we're not your customers? You're really going to do it for your real customers, which are always the advertisers and the marketers and all that stuff. So the insurance companies.
So that's the issue. Here's the problem. If there's somebody at Google who has, wants to make the world a better place, and I suspect there are thousands of employees and even management people at Google who do want to make the world a better place. That's it. You shouldn't be working at Google because of your business model.
They do have an image problem, right? I mean, if you were to scale this right now, who's at the bottom? It's Facebook, right? Like if Facebook got into health, I think we'd all be like,
we'd all agree that's a bad thing. Yeah.
Yeah, right? So you got Facebook, and then Google's above them. I would say Google is not nearly as bad as Facebook, but their reputation is not so great here for the reasons, that just outlined. And then you have like Microsoft and Apple, who aren't angels. They too have screw-ups, but it seems like their interest is a little bit different. And so I think that is a gradient, but it's, what Brianna was talking about too. We really haven't had this discussion about data. I'd also say Google has, part of their history. So like, first of all, it's called Project Nightingale. I think anytime you call anything a project and it's secret and then it leaks out in the media, it's just not good. And don't forget, Google is just reeling right now from their other project, the Chinese search engine that they were allegedly working on. And so was that Dragonfly, I think it was. So when you have all these like secret projects and it comes out, it just sounds sketchy, even if it may not be. And so, but we need to have this discussion about data protection. We have HIPAA, which is really nice because it does.
Google's not a signatory to HIPAA.
But Fitbit is. And so and that's like, so supposedly they're going to inherit that. But like, we need to talk about this stuff, who controls the data and who sells it, all this. And I don't know. It's just, I would feel better. I don't feel safe putting myself with Google, not for any specific reason either. But my other issue with like them and Fitbit, I just don't trust them as a company to maintain the hardware. Like I liked Fitbit's hardware. I liked what they were doing. And I feel like Google is just, I don't know what they're going to do with this stuff. Like Wear OS is a mess.
So some of the problem Google has is not about privacy or selling advertising, but just about their kind of
management
failure to pursue these projects to their end.
Flakiness. Yeah, and so I'm just worried.
Freakiness. That's a better word.
Flaky.
Oh, flakiness. Okay.
Flakiness.
Yeah, they're flaky.
I feel like the Fitbit line will just fizzle out, and I feel the same way. Like people were like, "Well, Microsoft should buy Fitbit." I'm like that same issue. Like I don't trust Microsoft to maintain Fitbit's business, right? And I don't know who would have been good for this. I would have actually preferred Apple to buy Fitbit, if only because Apple, I feel like, could really benefit from the health.
Would you trust government to do it?
That they do all the time.
I mean, government ranks even
CDC
lower.
is a massive amount of funding for.
See, this is the problem: is I don't think we trust anybody, and yet there are benefits to aggregating this information and creating databases and figuring stuff out. So are you just going to lose it all because you just don't trust anybody to hold all this information?
I think the issue with government is more about a general distrust in institutions. It's really been spanning for the last 20 years, and even going back to Reagan. But if you look now at the current administration, there's like anti-intellectualism that's been going on. We don't trust people in government to talk coherently about these topics because they're just not versed.
And yet the CDC does great, important, vital work.
Oh, yeah.
The people that work in those institutions know what they're doing.
Well, I would say the same thing about Google. You know, I mean, this is the problem. Is if we don't trust any institutions, yeah, fine, anarchy. But I think there's a benefit that we
go ahead, Brianna.
No, I was just going to say, I think the answer here is we've got to have regulation about who can collect what and how they could use it. If I remember correctly, Leo, for the health study you were talking about, when Apple got on stage and they were talking about how they were going to use their differential privacy technology to aggregate the total conclusions that they're going to draw, which means they split up the end and the beginning, so you can't track any one data to any individual user when they are drawing conclusions. That makes sense to me. So I think ultimately, if we're trying to say, well, do we trust Microsoft? Do we trust Google? Do we trust Facebook? It's a losing argument. We need regulation that protects citizens, and then that is an overall strategy for this, rather than like being at the mercy of Facebook and Google and Microsoft.
Well, maybe that is the solution, the same solution the founders came up with separation of powers. Maybe that's the solution, is that you do have private industry, but you have government watching. If you have mutual, oversight.
For all the things that you dislike about government, at least in theory, government is accountable.
Yes,
right. and a key point that I want to make here from the article from the Journal, I think it was, that brought this out, is neither patients nor doctors have been informed that Google has this data. It's because it comes from some Ascension, a Catholic chain of 2,600 hospitals, blah blah blah. But apparently that's legal. So there you go. All of this. Right. Under the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, hospitals can share data with business partners without telling patients, as long as the information is only used to help the covered entity carry out its healthcare functions. So,
by the way, that law was written to benefit health insurance companies, clearly.
Sure.
Right. That's what it's all. That was what that was all about, is that health insurance companies needed to collect all this data so they could know who to deny coverage to. So let's be clear. Maybe that's not the best law ever.
But also, to Daniel's point, it doesn't look good if no one, your doctor or you, knows that Google now has this data.
Look at this National Institutes of Health, which gave NIH, which gave 100,000 chest X-ray images to Google, including in some cases identifying information on those films. Google's decided not to take it. They were 2 days before they were going to publicly post it. They got a call from the NIH saying, "Yeah, maybe we better cancel that." So but I would hate to lose the benefit of this stuff too. We need to find a way to regulate it.
I think the regulation. I mean, as Brian was saying, government, for all its flaws, is technically accountable. That's not, if you don't pay attention to it, it gets away. You do have lobbying and interest, even like HIPAA, as you pointed out. But in theory, we could organize, petition the government, and they could fix things. And it's really the only solution. I know people like to use this argument with Google, it's a free market. Just don't give them your business. But when you
don't have a choice.
You made the. Yeah, if Google's giving away the product for free, and you don't have much choice, and sometimes you don't even know what they're doing. It's hard to be that consumer who's making a decision. I don't know. It's a very complicated world. It's like saying I'm going to boycott Disney. It's like
It's a complicated world.
Company.
That's the best synopsis of this whole problem, which is and the government is not designed to handle this fast-paced, very complex issue.
And what sort of a monster would say they would boycott Disney?
Disney. I am boycotting Disney Plus. I will not pay for it. I don't care.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to watch The Mandalorian. I guess I can live without The Mandalorian.
I already have 4 years of it.
You bought 4 years?
I bought 3 years because they had a deal.
They had a deal for 3 years?
Deal for only for Disney insiders that
if you're already a Disney insider, there's a problem.
Was basically buy 2 years, get one free.
Disney insider is basically Stepford wife.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I was married there. So.
He was married in Disneyland.
Disney World. Disney World. They have their own wedding pavilion. So.
Yeah.
And then Verizon is giving.
You're a Disney Stepford wife as well.
Verizon is giving all their subscribers an
extra year, so that's how you got 4. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Verizon
So
guy.
2 years for the price of 2 years.
The good news about probably that though is So what I like about Disney Plus, it's like $6.99, and if you tie it to Hulu, it's even cheaper. But I don't trust they're not going to raise the price soon. Right. I bet it's going to be like $12 or $13 within 2 years.
Actually, let's take a break because I need to take a break. But I would like to talk about all these new streaming services. Before the show, we were kind of going back and forth about it, but let's put it in the show because it's getting expensive and lots of choices out there. Our show today brought to you by ExpressVPN. You know, I just saw a story that said Apple's going to warn you when you join an open Wi-Fi network and say, do you want to turn on the VPN? You should have ExpressVPN on your iPhone. I did on my MacBook, on my iPhone, on my Windows machine, on my Android device. As we were traveling around the world, we were using a lot of open Wi-Fi. Absolutely, you better believe I pressed that button. That's the nice thing about ExpressVPN. Those apps have a big button. You press it, you're covered. You're secure. You're private. You're on the best VPN service there is, ExpressVPN. There are a lot of reasons you want to use a VPN. This audience, I shouldn't have to explain to you. There's, all sorts of ways Wi-Fi security can be bypassed. There's all sorts of ways people can attack your system if you're on an open Wi-Fi access point. Flaws like crack. There's privacy issues too. Your internet service provider, many internet service providers sell information about what sites you're visiting to the highest bidder. Some even inject ads into your Wi-Fi stream. ExpressVPN blocks all of that. Number one VPN provider, according to TechRadar, according to CNET. It's very easy to use, very affordable. In fact, we've got an extra special deal. If you subscribe for 1 year, you'll get 3 extra months free at expressvpn.com/twit. I tested it out. I brought it with me everywhere. They just completed an audit by a third party that said, yes, ExpressVPN does exactly what they say they do in the privacy policy. They do not log. In fact, they use a technology that makes it impossible for them to log. It's called Trusted Server. They created it. Those VPN servers you're logging into all around the world are running in RAM. No data logs can even be written to the hard drive, even by accident. So there's no way to keep track of what you're doing on ExpressVPN. That's what you want, real privacy. I'm a big fan of ExpressVPN. I think you should give it a try. If you're not using a VPN, even Apple these days is going to start saying this is in the new beta. You ought to be using a VPN. Turn it on. Nice thing about ExpressVPN, as soon as you've installed it on your iPhone, it knows, and it'll turn it on when you want. ExpressVPN.com/twit to get started. Get those 3 extra months free when you buy a 1-year package. ExpressVPN. Really happy to have them as a partner on This Week in Tech. Brianna, which streaming services are you going to subscribe to?
I'm the world's biggest Homeland fan, so Showtime is my favorite one.
Do that.
HBO for John Oliver, Netflix, obviously. I am married to a Rick and Morty fan, so Hulu.
How much do you pay a month? That's crazy.
A lot. Gosh, what else?
Do you not have a cable? You don't have cable, though.
We don't. We canceled cable.
Who do you get your internet from? A cable company or?
Yeah, we have Fios.
So they get you anyway.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's CBS. I'm married to a big Star Trek fan. I'm one too, so it adds up very quickly.
And are you going to get Disney Plus?
I've already got it. I'm all in on the Cassian Andor series coming out soon.
There you go. How about Apple TV Plus?
You should have asked what she didn't subscribe to.
Yeah, what? Yeah, that would have been a shorter answer.
What don't I subscribe? I don't know if there is one. I got nothing. Stars.
AMC? You don't get stars?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You will.
Eventually.
Does it come down to having like a killer show? Is that what it comes down to?
Yeah. I mean, I would pay $100 a month for Homeland. I love that show. So, as soon as it goes off the air, I'm never going to subscribe again. But until
that's what drives Showtime and HBO and all the others crazy.
Yeah.
And what drives them to try to find the next big thing. Now that Game of Thrones is over, HBO's going, and I guess Watchmen is the next.
I'm surprised at the discipline in some people who just sign up for a few weeks or a few months to watch a series and then, basically cancel their account. Like, I'm impressed by that. Like, I'm way too lazy to do something like that.
And they know that. That's why they auto-renew. They know that. They know you'll never cancel.
For Hulu, I'm in on the, you can't go higher than what I have for Hulu. Like I pay now apparently like $60 a month for Hulu.
But you're getting not just Hulu though, you're getting like the television service.
The live TV, the cloud recording, the commercial free, which isn't really commercial free. It just allows you to fast forward through the commercials, which I appreciate. That said, the reason I stick with Hulu is because they're supported everywhere, whether it's phone. Their web app is very good. They make a PWA now, which works exceptionally well. It's on Xbox. And so I can watch it wherever I am, basically. So even in my home office here, if news is breaking, I'll just open up the Hulu app and watch on my computer while multitasking. Sling was also good, but I found Hulu's streaming technology to be better. And so you have to kind of pick and choose it. But yeah, I mean, it comes down to what these services offer for TV and all this kind of stuff and the quality of it. Yeah, I liked YouTube TV. I thought it was really good quality.
I liked the capabilities.
Yeah.
The DVR, you could have 6 people, each could have their own DVR, things like that. But then they jumped the price so much, I canceled it. Then I got in trouble with my wife. So so it's back. We got it.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is surprising. AT&T's TV Now is raised its price considerably, but that is a struggling service.
That's also the one that they swore they would not when they
would not raise the price.
They would not raise the price when they were trying to get
to Congress. Yeah. That's a common thing.
Also, there's the whole AT&T Time Warner HBO Max thing is gonna replace theoretically, like, so maybe they don't even care about that anymore.
They now have
maybe it's one of those things where it's like they cancel you unless they think you're making money on them. You know?
Right.
Well, HBO Max is not going to be their TV Now.
Right. No, I know it's different.
So when do consumers say enough, or will they ever? Will we just keep buying them all?
I think we keep buying.
It's like the same old game. I mean, before we had streaming services, it was like, which Byzantine cable plan am I going to sign up for? Do I want to watch E? Do I want ESPN? I mean, you're paying the same amount of money. At least now I can focus in on the shows that I want and cancel it without spending an hour on the phone with my husband.
It feels to me like we're in a bubble, though, of some kind. Like there's too many shows. There's too much to watch. I feel like people are just going to say enough and they're just going to stop watching TV entirely. No,
absolutely.
Well, but there's no way that we're all going to be signed up for 6 services, right? So there's going to be a huge washout within the next 3 to 5 years.
There'll be winners and losers. Okay.
Right. So then, somebody's going to go back to just being the feeder to the Netflixes and the Disneys and whoever comes out on top or whatever. Actually, to me, the most interesting thing about this is that as we're all talking about these subscription services, like there's a huge play that in streaming, and it's still ad supported. So you've got
that drives me nuts. I feel like if I'm paying you, you should not be putting ads.
But see, like that's why, is it Peacock or it's one of those? It's either Comcast or NBC's play. That's just going to be the thing where it's like, well, whatever. We might not charge you. Because right. No, but so it'll just be another app that's on your phone or whatever.
Ad-supported.
Exactly.
Network like this, like Twit, like podcasts.
So like Hulu used to be.
Like Hulu used to be.
Right. So what if how it all shakes out in 5 years is that there's 3 or maybe even 2 big subscription players, and then everybody else has essentially cable channels, but they're just all apps because they're ad supported or whatever. And that's essentially it shakes back down to what all we've really replaced. It used to be HBO, Showtime, Cinemax, and now it's going to just be Netflix. And then everything else will be ad-supported streaming on the other side.
Huh. It's an interesting world. I guess, though, that our appetite for content is not diminishing. It's
I mean,
if anything,
things have gotten better. I mean, I like this. I'd rather have this problem than just have a single cable company in my town, and that's
I guess you're right.
Because at least now, like...
Well, this is what everybody was saying. We want a la carte. We don't want to have to buy 20 channels for the one show.
We got
it. We got our wish.
You can cancel. You just go online. I can go cancel Hulu right now. They're not going to call me. They're not going to bug me. I just cancel. It's done. I could go back to Sling and be online in 2 minutes. You know, so I do appreciate that. I think things have gotten better. I would also say that quality of the shows have gotten better. Like getting back to Disney Plus. I'm all on board with the new Star Wars shows. Like I think we're getting really good TV now, and so I think it's better than the network TV model we had years ago.
I agree.
And so
absolutely.
I'd rather have this.
They're also spending a lot more money. Apple spent $300 million on the morning show. What was it? You were saying $16 million an episode?
Yeah, well, $15 million an episode. Yeah. I probably should not admit this on your show, Leo, but the thing I spend the most time out of any of my subscriptions watching is YouTube. I pay for YouTube Red, which doesn't have commercials. And yeah, I was talking to one of the millennials on my staff about this, and he was saying, it's so hyper segmented that I just don't watch planned TV anymore. And it makes sense. Yeah. Like if you're a car person, you go watch Doug DeMuro. If you like tech stuff, you're watching, your content or other shows. It's so hyper segmented.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe really this is old farts who are discussing Disney Plus versus Hulu, because nobody under 25 that I know watches any of that. They watch YouTube, period.
Yeah. Well, I think for parents, Disney is a place where you can feel reasonably sure.
Yeah, nobody trusts the kid stuff on the
Here,
YouTube.
by the way. We've had a revolution this weekend in our household with the Disney Plus.
How old are your kids?
First week, 5 and 3.
Oh, so you're right in the middle of it.
Obviously, yeah.
So actually, that's an interesting change that's coming to YouTube. They've announced, and this is really, they say it's the FTC making them do this, that if you're a child targeted channel, this will very much change your advertising model. And if you're a child attractive channel, and you have to declare it, and it's up to you to decide, but if you do it wrong, the FTC fines you, not YouTube. So that is in response to the problems people have had with YouTube, child-focused YouTube content that's gathering information about kids, that's targeting kids, it's doing all sorts of weird content for kids.
I've told this story on my show. I put on Thomas the Train. I come back in 30 minutes, and Thomas is going through a McDonald's drive-thru, and the McDonald's is on fire. And I say, "What the heck is going on here?"
It's the recommendation engine.
To this day, my daughter tries to convince me that YouTube is really good, Papa. YouTube's really good. I said, "You've got the wrong Papa, because this is what I do for a living, is I have to hear about all the horrible things that the YouTube algorithms do every day." So go on, sorry.
But I like the fire in McDonald's, Papa. I like it.
She thought it was exciting.
Well, they know what they're doing. Really, that's the bottom line on all this stuff. Algorithmically, we are just little monkeys in a cage pressing the button for the food.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I suspect this is all going to. I feel like we're in a bubble. I think it's all going to change when the 25-year-olds are dominant, and it's going to be a very different world. And I think hyper-segmenting is a very interesting phrase.
Yep.
Because I even remember a time when you would come to work and everybody would be talking about what Johnny Carson did last night.
Sure.
And that's how old I am. And that still a little bit like I remember at the last episode of Game of Thrones, somebody said, "Remember this is the last time everybody will be watching the same show and at the same time." That's going away.
Yeah. I think my other concern is the fact that these companies are still combining. So like Hulu was Hulu, and then Disney and Comcast, and what you're having is like all these, and like with Hulu, it's like Hulu, ESPN Plus, which I use because of UFC, which they made a deal there, which I wasn't happy about, and now you have this Disney, streaming service. So you have all this stuff coming under one roof, and at first I was like, oh, this may actually work out because they offered a deal. It's like, oh, if you already subscribed to some of these, we'll give you a discount. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And that was cool right up until Hulu raised the price by $10, which is like, oh, that's probably how you're subsidizing the Disney Plus stuff, is you're offering it so low by jacking up the Hulu cost. And I feel like this is going to be this cat and mouse game. So it's only as good as when there's actual competition. But like what happens with Sling, right? Like, so Sling is an interesting one. I actually like them. I think they're a good company. They make some.
Who owns them? Dish, right?
Yeah, I believe so. But
Dish
like,
owns them.
Who knows what happens to that? I mean, AT&T can come and buy that, or Disney might buy them, and it's like you could totally see that happening. In which case, you start losing this competition, and didn't.
Isn't the real upside for YouTube? Isn't in the long run YouTube in the catbird seat here? Is it going to matter that we have Disney anymore in 20 years, or is it?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be a demand for quality scripted programming. I mean,
you could have quality scripted programming on YouTube.
Well, Leo, are you saying
I have to disagree.
Yeah, they tried that.
YouTube has moved into this space. It's terrible stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It's aimed at very young people, but it's not good stuff.
Except for the fact that Leo, are you saying that because they are almost crowdsourcing all of the talent, that they can almost be their own? Eventually, all of the talent bubbles up from YouTube, and so then, in theory, they could just.
I think they can own it all. And I think
it's the Spotify argument.
Yeah, but it's more than that. It's about really what it's about is the fracturing of the commons. And I worry in the long run that this may not be good for the world, that everybody has their own little slice and niche, doesn't know anything about anybody else.
Yeah.
And so as long as YouTube gives me the whatever is the car content I want or you want or whatever it is, you're going to watch that. And you're going to be satisfied with that. And eventually, because of the great expense of buying all these different channels and all this premium content, I think people are just going to turn their back. I think there's a whole generation coming up that never spent money on premium content. They're just going to turn their back on it. They're going to say, look, I get everything I want right here for free.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know if you're a Neil Stephenson fan, but Diamond Age is one of my favorite novels. And I think about that line in it every day where they're talking about the Victorians, and they came to the conclusion as a society, it's not good for everyone not to read the same newspaper.
But that sounds so old-fashioned, doesn't it?
It does, but there's... You look at, I remember in the 90s thinking, oh, it's going to be great when we can segment it out. I can talk to people from my viewpoint. And today we're not able to have a conversation with each other.
One of the best things, I just came back from traveling in the Middle East. One of the best things about traveling is you meet people who you've been told things, especially in the Middle East, about.
Yeah.
But then you go there and you meet them and you realize everything you've been told is wrong and that they're humans, and it broadens your horizons. And the people who never travel don't, they can have those illusions about the other. And I think we're getting in a world where it's so fragmented now. You read the news that agrees with what you think, that we literally now in this country have different sets of facts.
Yeah.
And my fact may not be the same as somebody else's fact. In my day, a fact was a fact. But we don't agree anymore on what is a fact, what's true. And so I worry about what the world looks like with that kind of fragmentation in the long run. I feel like that's a risky proposition.
Yeah.
Stevenson talks about that.
This the doomsday machine. Yeah.
Right. And in the fall, he talks about it very directly.
Yep.
I mean,
on that.
I don't know. I'm just wondering. I don't know what the answer is going to be. I'll be dead before that happens, so I don't really care. Go ahead. You can say it. Okay, boomer.
No, I wasn't thinking at all.
Sure you were. Okay, boomer. I love that.
I tell you, one of the things that's changed as I've gotten older. I was watching Patriot Games the other day, and it's based on a Tom Clancy novel from the 80s, and I'm watching it. It's a universe without cell phones or computers interrupting your concentration every few seconds. And I'm looking at it, I'm going, that's sanity. That's sanity.
Yeah, we're insane.
And I almost feel robbed as a generation that I didn't get much of that world.
I remember the first time I noticed what was going on with cell phones. It was maybe 10 years ago in Paris, and I was sitting outside Notre Dame, really enjoying the atmosphere, and then I noticed there are a lot of Parisians walking around like this, looking at their phone, walking around like this, and I thought that's weird. Now that's all you see anywhere. People our lives suddenly have become 6.5-inch screens. Yeah, that's weird. And these are, and I think some of this comes from that algorithmic addiction. That these companies, that worries me a lot more than privacy. These companies have figured out how to grab our attention and completely keep it. We are Skinner boxes. We're in Skinner boxes.
What's funny with the cell phone stuff was when smartphones, or not even smartphones, and cell phones first kind of came out, It was only business people had them.
Right.
And I remember I was one of the first of my age group to get one. And people are always like, why do you have a cell phone? I'm like, I don't know.
What are you, a drug dealer?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I even had a pager, and I was not a drug dealer, but it was so cool. But I remember the big discussion in civil society at the time was how annoying it was and whether or not you should carry on public conversations on on cell phones. You'd have people on the trains, and that's when the Long Island Railroad would create quiet cars, and they would have these new rules. I used to, and this is confessing of a crime, I bought and imported a cell phone jammer, and I would just sit on the Long Island Railroad and just jam people.
You'd go to the quiet car and jam the phone.
Oh, it was so good. It felt so awesome just to see someone on the phone just blabbering and they're, what? Sorry, hello? No,
oh, my God, I love it. I want one. But that it's highly illegal, obviously.
Yeah, but that all went away now because no one talks on phones anymore, right? Then it switched over to people just staring, and it was a lot less annoying because they weren't bothering you, so we accepted it. But yeah, now we carry around these devices.
We're all in our phone. We're all in our little 6.5-inch glass screen world.
Yeah, and
all the time.
That's the world we live in. And smartwatches now do the same thing. Now people look at their watches all the time, and
it's an interesting world.
Yeah, we're weird biological creatures. I told you, everything we create is so we can communicate. It's just we're psychological. We're these social addicted animals, and so that's all these tools are.
Yeah. Bleak says cell phone jammers are highly illegal and very affordable.
Yes. It looked like, the funny thing is, it looked like a cell phone.
Really? So you didn't even know what you were doing?
Yeah, it looked like a cell phone, just had dual antennas on it, but you would hit this button. It was pretty rad. I was very happy with it.
I also, not to discourage or depress people, I also have hope for humans, and I think that as we are walking down that path, but we will turn back. Humans don't want that, and we will ultimately turn back. Yeah. And I have faith that we will see the error of our ways, and we'll start knowing one another. I think in the long, I was really worried about social media, about Facebook and Twitter, and then we started our own little forum, and it's such an antidote to the global forums. It's a twit.community. It's a www.twit.community, and it's a wonderful place, and it's been really great. And there's none of the awful stuff that you see in mainstream social media. That I'm starting to realize that maybe it'll come around. You know, it'll come around.
Did you see that the Wikipedia founder started his own social network?
Yeah, Jimmy Wales. So he had a failed news initiative.
Yep.
And what was it? What was it called? Wiki
Tribune.
Tribune.
And this is Wiki Tribune Social.
Yeah. I went to it, and it seems to be mostly, I tried to sign up for it. It seems to be mostly about cryptocurrency, so I left.
Well, I've got to pay my $10 to get in there so we can have some different conversations.
Yeah, we could start our own. But when you first sign up for it, it says, okay, well, pick some subjects that you'd like to know more about. And 90% of them were crypto.
Oh, gosh.
This is the problem with any social network. And this is why I think that you can't have mass social networks. You have to have smaller, more community social networks, because a mass social network, you're going to get the mass conversation.
Yeah.
Which is exactly opposite about what I was saying about the fragmentation of facts and stuff. So I don't know what the answer is.
Do you know where I met Christina Warren? It was on app.net, which was this failed Twitter clone.
I was a big fan.
I loved it. It was great. It was all developed. It was a social network with nothing but developers. Right. And I made some of the best friends of my life there.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. And that accord of, in a sort of way, became GNU Social, became Mastodon. So there is a thread continuing. App.net's failure was you had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the secret of its success. I don't know. Our show today brought to you by, this is something that'll make you feel better. Calm. Calm. Calm.com. What a great app. The #1 app to reduce your stress, to help you sleep better, to relax your mind. You know, stress is the great killer. Stress is the thing you got to get out of your life. It's the thing that'll make you nuts. Imagine if you could put an app on your phone that would help you reduce stress, would help you get a great night's sleep, would help you live better. That's what Calm is all about. I'm a huge Calm.com fan, and I encourage everybody to give it a try. They've got sleep stories, which are bedtime stories for grown-ups and for kids, by the way. they have plenty of, like the Velveteen Rabbit that your kids would love, but they also have fun stories that are kind of edgy. Like the best one is, well, one of the best, it's certainly good for putting me to sleep, is an ASMR by a guy who calls himself the French Whisperer. And the French Whisperer explains the theory of relativity. And it's perfect because you get about 5 sentences in and you're out cold. It's so great. When I was flying, we were on the airplane, calm in my headphones, made everything better. Sleep stories, there's meditations, there's daily meditations. There's all sorts of useful stuff on calm.com. LeVar Burton, Nick Offerman. Nick Offerman's a perfect voice to help you go to sleep. If you go to calm.com/twitch, you get 25% off a Calm Premium subscription. So you get hundreds of sleep stories. You get a lot of other content. There's breathing exercises, stretching exercises. There's more and more content on there all the time. And I have to say, I live on calm.com. 60 million people use calm.com now. And you can be one of them. Get the sleep you need tonight. Make your life better. Get the stress out. For a limited time, 25% off a Calm Premium subscription when you go to calm, calm.com/twit. You get unlimited access to the entire library, new content every week, those new daily meditations with Tamara Levitt every single day. Calm.com/twit. This is a way to have a better life. This is definitely a way, and it's very affordable, very reasonable, very calming.
Yeah, how I get calm.
How do you get calm?
Smoke weed, which I can't do anymore because of iPhones. What the hell, Apple?
Wait a minute. Apple took all of the vaping apps. Is that what you're talking about?
I am.
Do you vape?
I do.
Did you get crazy when you saw that 76 people died from vaping?
I know. My girlfriend gives me crap about that. I'm like, what? Sorry.
It's better. Well, see, I have mixed feelings about this because my daughter, who smokes cigarettes, I said, get a Juul. It's better. It's going to be better, right, than smoking cigarettes. I understand the problem Juul was advertising to people who never smoked, especially kids, with candy flavors and stuff. They got rid of those. But if you're a smoker, isn't it better to vape than to smoke? It's better for you.
A new study just came out showing heart improvements for smokers who switch to vaping.
Yeah. Admittedly, you shouldn't do any of it. But good luck stopping. It's not easy.
I look at coffee. I mean, it's caffeine is not really good for you, but it's as far as it's.
Do you put pot in your vape?
Oh, yeah. And the only reason I got into it is because I go to CES. And we're
going to get you arrested one way or the other on this show today, Daniel.
This is Massachusetts. It's legal.
Oh, you're in a hippie state.
Yeah, cool now. So,
Daniel, you know all about our fine governor banning vaping here, and that it came out that it was all black market stuff, according to the CDC, that was
killing people.
It's just it's vitamin E.
Now they figured out.
Don't vape vitamin E.
They figured out they were putting an additive in some of the THC capsules that did something terrible to your lungs. It's a
bigger argument to make this stuff legal because this is, again, getting back to regulation because you can then regulate the market. It's one of the best things to happen to the pot industry is regulation. You actually know what you're getting now.
Yeah.
In fact, PAX, so I was bringing them up, PAX, they're one of the most interesting companies in this area. They're a company I was like, I should have been in on this 5 years ago. They were in Vegas at CES. They were giving out their little vaping tool, which is $30. And then you can go to a dispensary and get a free vape thing from them. They're giving away free weed, basically. It was crazy. And that's how I got into it.
This was a fever dream I had when I was a teenager. Someday you're going to be able to buy a joint in the grocery store, man.
It'll be electric.
If you told me someday they'll be giving pot out for free, man, I would have said no. It's not.
So I feel like I have to say here, I'm very pro marijuana. I've been on record saying this. After Gamergate, I was so traumatized from the death threats and bricks through my window that my specialist in PTSD was like, look, marijuana is legal here. I'd never tried it before.
You'd never used it before.
I'd used it 1 or 2 times.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. And she was like, this is a path for you to get better. It did help me. I don't do it often, but it was a miracle drug for me.
Yeah.
That said, Daniel, I gotta say this. I tried vaping twice. And it is hell on your lungs. And I say that as a runner. Yeah. And it's your choice. It's obviously better than smoking, but I think it's got to be said, just to be responsible, that this is, you're introducing any contaminant that might be in there directly into your bronchial system. And if something is contaminated,
but I mean, smoking cigarettes is not good either.
It's very bad.
I would think vaping is preferable to smoking, to burning.
Especially if you're getting real stuff, know, from a lab like you can get in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, can I ask a question that, bringing it back to the Apple banning the apps thing? As soon as I saw this. No, by the way,
you've got a picture over your right shoulder of a guy vaping. I just want to say, Brian.
Wait, look, where is that?
Right over. No, your right shoulder. The other one. Who's that guy below? Not the Time magazine. Right below it.
Oh,
there's a guy vaping right there.
That's David Letterman.
Okay.
That's a picture from like 1982 or something.
Is there smoke on it, or is it just my imagination?
It's some sort of reflection from me having.
Oh, it's a reflection. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, I just want to be the guy advocating for sobriety. I don't have enough brain cells to sacrifice to vaping or pot or to anything. Yeah. So I mean, I smoked a lot of pot, used a lot of drugs when I was a young man, and I don't know. I might have actually been a success had I not, but I'm not doing it now. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Daniel, what would vape apps be good for?
That's okay. So this is the story. Apple removed 181 apps that allowed people to control the temperature, settings on their vaping device, social networks, games. They never did allow the sale of cartridges through those apps. Right. They were apps to control the vaping device. Do you use an app, Daniel?
Yeah. So this is why I found PAX super interesting, because I was the same way. I was like, wait, it's Bluetooth and it connects to your phone. I'm like, come on, this is more like Internet of, pardon my language, but like, like we don't need this. But then the app, so this is why the app is good. One, you can set the temperature, which affects the intensity of it. You can also control the density of it, so the dosage. So you can choose micro, small, medium, or large. And so you can actually give this to someone with the PAX cartridge and set it to micro. And then when you inhale it, there's a little meter that will go across your smartphone screen telling you how long you should take the hit for. So it's a way.
Oh, my God. You're kidding.
No. So
again, this is a teenage fever dream. Someday you'll have a computer in your pocket that'll tell you how long to take a hit for.
Yeah, but you could give this literally to your grandma and be like, just set it on micro.
Grandma? Yeah.
Yeah, and she wouldn't. There's no. It lessens the risk of getting too high from it. Well,
tell grandma to get an Android device because
you're right. Yeah, you can use it on there. But so you could do that. But also, PAX introduced a thing where you put the new pods in, it can ID match it, and it'll tell you exactly what's in there from the lab.
Look at this. And so you can see if it's sativa, indica, CBD, a hybrid. You can see whether the effect is chill, celebrate, create, relief, hustle. Really, you could smoke pot for hustle?
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
This is like the benefit of like having a controlled marijuana industries. Like you do get these specific brands, and people know what they're buying.
Be cool. Stay in school.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise.
I thought this was super exciting. I was like, this is the way this industry should go forward and be more mature about it. And I agree with Brianna. I mean, we don't know a lot about vaping, long-term health effects. And that's where like we need to have, again, an open discussion. There needs to be research on this stuff and brought out there. The health risks mentioned. I do believe, if you're an adult, 18, if we're going to have alcohol and cigarettes still legal, like
why not have pot? I don't have a problem.
This needs to be, but we should get qualified.
When I smoke pineapple haze. It's an 86% 0.02% combination of sativa. It combines the tropical aroma of pineapple with the racing cerebral energy of haze.
It's awesome. I'm not a pothead either, mind you. I didn't start smoking till. I'm 42 now, but I think the first time I smoked like once in my early 30s, but it was only like when I was 40, I started getting.
So is Apple doing this just because it's it's hip, it's now, it's with it, or is it doing it because there's genuinely a problem with these apps? I don't honestly see a problem.
I'm frustrated because I see that for my PAX, like Apple deleted the app from my phone altogether. So
they didn't just
use this
they
thing.
Deleted it?
Unless I deleted it, I don't remember it, but it's
Say,
gone from my phone.
the article said they said that you were still allowed to use it and still install it if you already
took it out of the store.
Yeah.
Oh, you probably high and deleted it. What's this, man?
If you're using it for medical purposes, I think it just feels. Because that's the strongest argument for legal marijuana to me is, there is a medical use for it. I talk to veterans all the time that use it to treat PTSD. And I'm glad to see our fine Commonwealth of Massachusetts leading the way. But it just seems to me, like Daniel said, you can dose it out very specifically for what you want. I had never smoked it before. I had no idea what it would do. And it was good to be able to take just a very little amount.
If I were PAX Labs, I would make a PWA, a progressive web app.
You could do that,
right? Yeah. Apple can't stop you from doing that, and then you could put it on your home screen.
Yeah, I wonder if they can do that with the Bluetooth connection and PWA.
Yeah. So that's what it needs. It needs to connect to the pen. Okay. I never thought we'd be talking about this. We've refused for years. We've refused ads for CBD products, for vaping products of all kinds.
Leo, I was at that Fireside conference, that conference up in Canada this year.
Yeah,
it was because the pot is legal in Canada. It was all CBD and cannabis startups. Everything.
Yeah,
half of the people there.
Yeah, I think they thought in this is, we're near Mendocino, which is like the headquarters of pot growing in California, and Mendocino County. And I think everybody thought this would be the Petaluma, this little town we're in, would be the gateway to Mendocino. There was actually an Amish seed store that bought a giant, it was the old Petaluma Bank, 10,000 square foot store, where they were selling seeds, like tomato seeds. And I thought, I know what the rent is on that place. You couldn't possibly. And it turned out their whole plan was, once pot's legal in California, which it is now, we are going to become the #1 source of seeds. But it hasn't materialized. In fact, I think there's still more illegal growers than there are legal growers in this area.
Yeah, California is, obviously, you guys are a big state, but your history there is a lot more steeped in this stuff.
Oh, it's because we have a legacy. We have incumbents. Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And the Canadian industry has kind of crashed in the past few.
Has it?
Yeah.
So legalizing isn't really necessarily the boom.
It's mostly because there was a huge bubble. All those people at Fireside.
Kirsten, are you saying it's happened in the last couple weeks? Because I was at that conference like 3 months ago, and I was literally
it happened. And basically this week,
it happened.
The Canadian pot stock bubble bust.
Okay, all those startup pitches I saw. Okay, great.
Yeah, half of those companies are in a lot of trouble this week.
People are too stoned, really, to make a good market out of it. They're not. People who smoke pot are not what I would call industrious.
I gotta tell you, Leo, here in Massachusetts, for you to get on the ballot, you have to get I believe it's 2,500 signatures, and the people that worked hardest for me
were the potheads,
pot legalization people. They would sit outside of supermarkets in 20-degree weather and get signatures.
Because they weren't feeling anything.
Yeah, it's not that hard to be high and sit outside of supermarkets.
They were working very hard. So,
Brianna, by the way, I saw articles this week about how because the Trump administration is theoretically moving to do more regulation of vaping and things like that, and there were the articles about how vapors could be a single issue voting block.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Absolutely true.
I'm not surprised.
Absolutely true.
Try banning coffee. You could make coffee drinkers a voting block too, right?
Yeah.
All right, I want to take a little break. And again, just a little disclaimer. Kids, don't smoke marijuana. It saps you of all ambition. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. If you're too ambitious, if you've got too much energy, you just you really don't want to do anything. Go ahead, be my guest. Our show today brought to you by Worldwide Technology, WWT. They've created this amazing advanced technology center. In fact, I think I want to do an event out at this in St. Louis because this is amazing. $500 million of enterprise gear in this ATC from hundreds of OEMs, key partners ranging from the big guys like Dell EMC, to VMware, Intel. They've also got the little guys, the disruptors like Tanium and Equinix and Expanse. It's all in there because if you are in business and you are buying business technology, you got to know that everything's going to work the way you expect it to. You've got to be able to get everything working together, and that's where you do it at the ATC. Now, the engineers at Worldwide Tech have been using the ATC to create proofs of concept, to spin up pilots, to let customers select the best solutions. But now you can do it too, and that's what's totally amazing. That's right. WWT has opened their Advanced Technology Center to everybody with on-demand and schedulable labs like Dell EMC VxRail or Extreme IO or X2 or Isilon. These labs represent the newest advances in primary storage. There are hundreds of labs that you can use to explore things like multi-cloud, hyper-converged infrastructure, networking, secondary storage, data analytics, AI. You don't have to operate in mystery. You can use the lab to find out exactly what it will do for you. They offer Lab as a Service. It's a dedicated lab space within the Advanced Technology Center where you can perform your own programmatic testing using that vast and beautiful ecosystem of enterprise tech that WWT has built. And because it's virtual, you don't have to go to St. Louis. You can use the lab anywhere in the world 24/7. And I have to tell you, this ecosystem creates a multiplier effect of knowledge, of speed, of agility, anytime, anywhere around the world for all WWT customers. That should be you. You'll get access not just to the labs, but articles, case studies, hands-on, use of these products, other tools that make the difference in today's fast-paced world. This is really a revolution in buying and using and understanding enterprise tech. Learn more about WWT and the Advanced Technology Center. Sign up for access to this new on-demand lab platform at www.com/twit. WWT simplifies the complex. www.com/twit. Worldwide technology, delivering business and technology outcomes all around the world. We got lots more news to talk about in just a second, but first, I'm just curious what happened while I was gone. Fortunately, we have spy cams everywhere. Watch.
Previously on Twit.
HoloLens 2. It's here, and you both got to try it? I'm so jealous. I haven't even seen the first one. Yeah. What did you do in it?
Balanced my checkbook.
Oh, my goodness.
I wrote a couple notes in Notepad. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
All about Android.
Flo, you wrote something, and your headline says it all. There just aren't enough good reasons to upgrade to the Pixel 4. Boom! Yeah. Mic drop.
That's bold.
Yeah.
That's bold.
Wow. And the battery life. Guys, there's...
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Tech News Weekly.
The Moto Razr was unveiled last night at an event. It has a clamshell design similar to the original Motorola Razr from 2014 in some ways.
Mm-hmm. Twit. All your favorite podcasts from the 80s, 90s, and today.
Have you played Minecraft Earth yet, Brianna? Are you?
No, I haven't even heard of this. Is it good?
Yeah. So it's Pokemon Go means Minecraft.
Whoa.
Yeah, so you can build. I could build right there. I could build a thing, and it persists in the world. I could come back to it. I could do more. You collect stuff. It just launched in the U.S. only. I wasn't able to use it until I got home.
Whoa.
It's really.
But it's in other countries actually now. But
is it?
Yeah, it started actually often in some European countries first, but now it's in the U.S. as open.
I couldn't use it in Dubai. I was very disappointed.
Yeah, Dubai was.
It's not in Dubai, but it is here, and so I'm collecting Minecraft stuff. If you played Minecraft, you'll recognize it. Yeah,
wow.
Dirt, cobblestones. But watch, so I can now build. Let me build something here. So this takes a little while. It's early days. I think it's kind of a beta, but it's going to give me an augmented reality view of this table, and I can build a little Minecraft castle right on this table. And it'll persist. When I come back, it'll be there. And any changes I make will be there as well. I think it's and this is This is I think this is another Microsoft Azure show-off thing, Daniel. I feel like,
It's it started off with HoloLens. If you remember when HoloLens first was announced,
what do they call it? There's a name for this. It's like Azure Places or something, right?
Anchors. Yeah,
Anchors.
That's it. The Anchors is what it's an open API that allows anyone creating a virtual or augmented reality to create real world static points where you can create these holograms, basically.
And they persist. So let me do that right now. So you can see, I can see my table. There's the studio. I don't know, you can kind of sort of see it. And I can place this little world there. Now that's going to stay there. And there's a little duck, and I can dig in it, and I can build in it with the stuff that I've gathered. I could let me just put a pig on there. Look at that. There's a little, that pig will never move. I put him on a top of a pillar. So this is Azure Anchors, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's cool.
Yeah, so it started off originally as HoloLens as one of the experiences where they could show off the technology of what HoloLens could do. But, and that was back when they first announced HoloLens, they didn't know how to market it. Because originally it grew out of an Xbox concept. It was going to be like this sort of gaming thing. But then Nadella kind of came in, and they seemed like they got more interest pushing towards enterprise and real world things. So they never created the full Minecraft experience, but the technology used there did turn into this, which is probably a much smarter use of it. I just tried it for the first time last night. I was kind of impressed, but also bewildered.
It's a little bewildering because it's not clear what the point of anything is.
Right. And there's no directions. It's just like
you just do stuff. But so now it's in the U.S., UK, Canada, South Korea, Philippines, Sweden, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and Iceland. It's on iOS and Android. Minecraft is huge. Microsoft has turned out to be quite a good steward. I thought they would ruin Minecraft. In fact, they've done much better than Mojang ever did.
Yeah. I often think about how for our generation, my generation, at least I'm Gen X, Super Mario from 1985 is such a huge game, and the number of kids that have played Minecraft is like 10 times bigger than that. Yeah, I try to process that, and I just can't. Daniel, I do have to say, I feel like HoloLens is, I can think of no Microsoft technology that deserved more success that did not get it. And I think it's just the moment it came out, VR just got so much more of the attention, and specifically the dev focus, and the fact that you could only code in it with C# and not, languages like C++. I feel like it has so much potential still, and it needs, I want to see Microsoft come back and push it again because it is truly amazing.
Well, they just shipped HoloLens 2 on the last week, so that was a big milestone for them. But they're taking I think a safe and realistic approach right now to it, which is it's geared towards enterprise professionals, line workers, engineering, architects, and even the military, right, which is a little bit controversial. But that's probably a safe spot for it because there's no external pressure to report numbers, in the sense like if they ship these to consumers and you could just go down to Best Buy and get them where they probably wouldn't sell, you would physically see them not selling, and we'd have a lot more data. And I think it's too risky right now as a consumer play, but I think we all see the potential for augmented reality in the consumer space. But that technology's got to shrink down in size, it's got to come down in price, and a developer story's got to build out. Microsoft is cooperating with iOS and Android in terms of making this Azure technology open source to them. So if whatever platform you're building on, you can use Microsoft's own technologies there, which I thought was also smart versus a walled garden proprietary approach. But still early days. But who knows, 5 years from now, maybe we'll actually have these simple glasses, like the company North makes them now, where we have overlays of the real world. I was bringing this up at Ignite, where I was talking about how Microsoft obviously owns LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a social network built for professionals. It's like Facebook, but serious. But how cool would it be to be at a conference where you have your glasses on and where you're walking up to people and you're getting their bio information, just like a video game would, overlaying people so that you know who you're talking to. This is part of vision what Microsoft sees as the power of LinkedIn, is it's a directory that introduces you to professional people, and with AI can bring up information based on like what that person has interest in, where it overlaps with you, and all this kind of stuff. So
I bought Oculus Quest with Pistol Whip coming out. I don't know if you've seen this, Leo. It's basically a John Wick simulator.
Yeah.
And
Aptly named, I might add.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
They should have called it Pencil Whipped, but okay,
something like that.
Yeah.
But I've really been surprised with how much more I use my Oculus Quest just because it's not tethered to a computer.
So much better.
It's a million times
Even though
better.
the quality is lower, it actually is better. It's a better experience.
It's a fair trade-off because you're not tethered to a single room. You can bring it with you. Yeah.
I grant the value of virtual reality, even more so of augmented reality, but I think we're so far off from the hardware living up to its promise. I mean, honestly, Snapchat spectacles are about that's the only real mass market product out there. Do you like the new spectacles? Anybody have them? I bought the original ones, believe it or not.
Not even Christina will buy these. So.
Not even Christina. Wow.
I remember her waiting in line for them.
Yeah, remember that? And they had pop-up shops. And I went on eBay because I couldn't get to the pop-up shop, and I found somebody who was selling the spectacles they got. 300 what?
380.
What?
Good luck. Good luck.
Price.
Yeah. They make quite a statement. They look very. They were smart. They made them more steampunk this time.
Yeah. You look like you're the sergeant character from Ghost in the Shell. I think.
Yeah, so. You want to look a little modern if you're going to wear these. I think someday we'll get augmented reality, but it's going to have to be in something that is not much different than regular glasses.
I agree. Apple's working on that. There was that big, was it Bloomberg story?
Yeah,
no,
I don't buy that. And while Mark Gurman really knows his stuff, he says Apple's spectacles are coming out. What did he say, 2021?
2022.
No, 2022.
Yeah.
I don't
they were going to do a headset first, and then they would get the actual glasses by 2022.
You know what? The phone makes a perfectly good. Look how I'm using the Minecraft. It's a perfectly good augmented reality thing.
Yeah,
who wants to wear that?
Leo, that's if you read the article,
2008 patent.
Oh, okay.
So
if you read the article, that's the point that they had this all hands meeting where it's like they want to get them on board with the next decade will be by 2030 we're going to be replacing smartphones with these sort of glasses.
And they're smart to be planning for the demise of the iPhone. You've got to know what's next. It ain't this. I don't think so. I think it's too early.
Yeah. What I found not believable about the information article was Apple having an all-hands-on meeting at Steve Jobs Theater. It just, anyone that knows anyone who works at Apple, it just sets my spider sense off.
And you couldn't fit a tenth of the Apple team into the Steve Jobs Theater. I don't know. Right. Yeah, I don't.
One of the things that I like, though, in theory as a feature was that if you were using it theoretically with the glasses, I can't remember who said this, but if you were using it, your glass part would go dark, so you could alert other people that you were using the augmented stuff.
Yeah. And this is in response to the splashback on Google Glass and the people who got beat up in bars.
There's also the people who don't like the idea of a camera recording, which I think is still something that needs to be addressed. But I mean, even Alex Kipman, who does Microsoft's HoloLens, has talked about this tension between augmented reality and virtual reality and how you solve it. Because one of them is very good for gaming, virtual reality, but one of them is good for the rest of the world, which is augmented. And one way you do that is you do have this glass that shifts from light to dark. Microsoft's working on this technology. Other companies are working on this. We've seen it. There's electrostatic windows on airplanes that can do this. So that technology is the next evolution. So everybody's kind of planning this stuff out, but we are years from it before it's we are just wearing glasses. But I point out a company North, a Canadian startup, have glasses with a little pop-up projector on the inside. It doesn't have cameras on the outside, so it's not recording anything. And you wear a little ring that allows you to control the notifications. It connects up to your phone. But it's literally a little heads-up display. As you're walking around, you can see notifications, weather, information. And it's this nice sort of hybrid between what Google Glass was trying to be and what we can actually do today. But I think this stuff is definitely, people need to talk about it, plan it. What Microsoft is doing is basically building a foundation out for it so that when it arrives, they're not caught flat-footed because you got to build up the ecosystem around it. And that's where they're doing right now. So I don't know. I do think this future is going to eventually happen, but we're definitely years from it being reality.
I just love the idea of being in a boring conversation and your glasses just get darker.
You're not paying attention, are you? Yeah. I mean, I think there'll be a market for it. I don't know. Here's a little campaign tip for you, Brianna, for your Congress run. In Great Britain, the Labour Party, which has been struggling for, decades, I think, is saying, if you elect us, we'll give every home and business in the UK free full fiber broadband by 2030.
I'm thinking through that problem. There's a big movement in Cambridge to have municipal broadband, but for a nationwide thing, I believe this would require nationalizing BT is part of the deal here. So I think it's one of those empty campaign promises. Although I have to say, I would vote for any candidate who said broadband for all. You'd have my vote.
I mean, geographically, the UK
it's a little easier in the UK. You can't do it in the US.
True. The Labour Party has a long history of nationalizing industries, and then
there
you go.
We definitely need. I mean, even where I am in Worcester, we don't have fiber optic.
But I think it's going to take. Certainly in the U.S., it's going, and I would bet in many countries, it needs government subsidy because there's so many areas it's not economically viable. Yeah,
because I know when I was in Long Island for a long time, and I can't believe I was taking the side of Verizon here, but Verizon was going town to town trying to get Fios, but they would have to go and get approval for each town.
Right.
And who was there fighting them in each town? Cablevision.
Right.
And so what ended up happening was Verizon would start building out the infrastructure. They could start to do that, lay the fiber, and then they were trying to get approval. And then what happened when the towns were becoming cognizant of this, like, oh, wait, you already built everything, so now we can charge you a little bit more for it. And so this is one reason, and I don't know if Brianna knows more about this too, in Massachusetts. I know Verizon's pulled back its Fios plans here in Massachusetts pretty significantly. As far as I know, there's no plans to build Fios anymore, especially out here in central Mass. And that's the problem. It's not like Fios is about to be installed. Like, no one's doing fiber optic, period, like installation. Now, cable has gotten better. I use Spectrum here, and they've actually been pretty solid, but I would like to at least have the choice, or knowing that someday I'll have fiber optic routed to my house, and there's just no inclination that's ever going to happen. I find that disturbing.
Yeah, I think if you look at rural electrification, I think we would all agree that's one of the most successful American initiatives in our history. Yeah. And I think broadband and access to it, you need it for your job, you need it for your work. It's not an optional thing in 2019. I would say I would be very hesitant about giving government the power to do that. In the way I would like to see it is encouraging more competition, because we essentially have a duopoly with internet service providers in the country.
John is so excited. John, our studio manager, Jammer B, because he got this door hanger on his house that said Sonic is about to put gigabit fiber internet to his house in his neighborhood.
Nice.
Did you get it yet? No.
Love it.
But they have to trench, and they have to get a... Oh, they're going to put it on the poles. So that's the other thing that people are talking about is access to existing poles, Brianna. And some people, telcos don't like this too much because that's competition. But in some jurisdictions, that's what they're doing, right? They're making.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's brilliant.
Last story. This kind of goes back to our data collection. A healthcare provider in Pennsylvania took 1.77 million EKG results from nearly 400,000 people, ran it through an artificial intelligence, and came up with an AI that could accurately predict your chances of dying within a year, even if you have a completely normal EKG, according to your physician. The physicians have no idea why it works.
One little problem with that story, isn't there? Well, actually, if
the little problem is you had to have your EKG, but a 0.85% score, which is a perfect score, would, like getting 100% correlation would be 1. If you just guessed, you'd have a 0.5. So 0.85 is actually better than any model physicians are currently using.
Wow.
But we were talking about this earlier on something or else about the algorithms. The whole black box thing with AI is the problem. Is that so? It's like a glass is half empty, glass is half full situation. So AI is better at telling us if you're a healthy person, you could die within a year of heart trouble or whatever. And however, the machines are not able to tell us how they're better than we are.
Right. Because machine learning doesn't make rules in the way we understand it. It makes a model. And you're right that what the problem with this is a doctor can't figure out from what the AI is doing how to better diagnose heart problems.
Yeah.
They said the AI accurately predicted risk of death even in people deemed to have a normal ECG. The findings suggest that the model is seeing things humans probably can't see, or at least we just ignore and think are normal. But it can't tell us.
The quote from the doctor is, that finding suggests that the model is seeing things that humans probably can't see or that we just ignore and think are normal. It's still unclear what the pattern the AI is picking up, which makes some physicians reluctant to use such algorithms.
Right.
AIs can potentially teach us things that we've maybe been misinterpreting for decades if they could tell us.
That's a flaw in humans because we say, oh, we don't want to use it if we don't know how it works. But that's just the nature of AI and particularly of these giant machine learning models. It doesn't generate a human-readable rule set.
Yeah,
you say don't use it because we can't determine what the rules are?
This is a foundational problem in cognitive science, too, when we try to understand the mind. So there's like this sort of assumption that humans have, which is, well, we can understand the universe. But there seems to be this other issue of we don't know what we can't know.
Right.
So we think we're smart enough to know everything, but it's sort of like how dogs can't talk, but they don't know they can't talk. And so there's just like this foundational issue with what the brain can do. And related to that, getting to this AI stuff, in theory, we could create machines and AI that someday could surpass us and know things that we can't possibly understand what they know. And this may be an extension of that. We don't know.
Well, let me give you a thought experiment. What if we could, using machine learning, create an AI that had perfect diagnostic capabilities? Right now, you rely on your physician, and your physician's imperfect memory of everything she learned in college and medical school, reading textbooks, reading journals, and of course, memory is far from perfect, so she might well miss a symptom. It happens all the time. Sure. But the AI never does. It's 100% perfect, but you don't know how it works. Which would you choose?
I mean, definitely the latter. You could plan things better.
Yeah.
If I knew it was
even if the AI gave you a poor credit score because you're a woman, at least it would know if you're going to die.
Okay, let me give you one more though. What if that continues to happen? And this is what we're talking about computers getting beyond us. So, Leo, you say, I trust the AI. I trust the AI for A, B, and C, and D. Then what happens when you're a decade down the line and you have absolutely no idea how anything works? You're a human being, and you're basically in the Wall-E universe where the computer's just running.
We're already there. The number of people who know how to who make a cell phone, make a smartphone, is infinitesimal. If anything should happen to them, we're screwed.
I often think about that. If you go back in time, say 50 years, and just explain the technology we have, and then it's like, people will be like, that's awesome. You tell us how it works.
Like, no idea. But you don't stop doing it just because you can't explain it.
Listen, this is my father-in-law's argument to me every year at Christmas when he uses flint to make a fire and humiliates me by being a mountain man that knows how to do that stuff.
God willing, someday we'll live in a world where no man has to use flint to make a fire. Thank you so much, Brian McCullough, for being here. He is, of course, the host of the Tech Mead Ride Home and the author of what is the name of your internet history book? I'm sorry, I'm drawing
How the Internet Happened.
That's it. How the Internet Happened.
But just check out the internet history, or the Tech Meme Ride Home. We're hitting our 500th episode.
Nice. Wow. You're going to beat us. You're catching up with us.
Yeah. What are you? What
745.
So I'll beat you within a year.
That's what happens when you do 5 shows a week.
I do 25 shows a month.
Yeah, you do 7 in some weeks. You'll do a show every day in some weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Stupid overachiever. I bet you don't smoke pot.
Not in a while.
Daniel Rubino, he is the executive editor, when he gets around to it, of Windows Central. Now we know why you have so many game controllers. You just forgot you bought one.
I barely game. That's the funny thing. I'm the worst pothead. I don't even game.
I'm teasing you. I'm just
too
teasing
ambitious.
You. Oh. Nothing wrong with it. It's completely legal in some states.
Yep.
It's always good to have you, Daniel. Good job at Windows Central, and we always love having you on the show. Both of you, Brian and Daniel. Of course, Brianna Wu, we love you. She is running for Congress in the Massachusetts 8th. If you live in the... There you go. What's the website?
It's Brianna Wu for Congress.
Oh, that's an easy one.
.com.
At Brianna Wu. And all three of you always are a pleasure to have on the show. Thank you for being here. It was a great way to come back and get back in the saddle and catch up. And I'll be honest with you, I had none of these stories that I read do I know about. It all happened while I was gone. So I'm glad I had some smart brains to explain it all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah, we do this show Sundays, and I'll be back from now on. I'm never leaving again because those other people did too good a job. We do this show Sundays right after the radio show. It's about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. It's now, I believe, because we're in daylight, we're in standard time now, right? So it's 2200, 22:30, thereeabout. Yep.
22:15,
okay.
Depending on how
long it takes me to walk. Yeah, right. if Carson lost his vape pen, it'll be a little earlier. No, I'm just kidding. We do the show live, and you can watch it live at twit.tv/live. That's our live audio and video streams. You can also be in studio. We love having a studio audience. We have people visiting. Actually, we have some really interesting people. We have Brian is here. He's a former JPL programmer, worked on Voyager. And then just completely coincidentally, Tony and Adam, who work for NASA, they fly the NASA high-altitude research plane, the WB-57F, 60,000 feet. That's right where the sky starts to disappear, right? It starts to turn black. That's amazing. That's great. Great to have you, all of you, and Jim and Elaine from Tucson. Jim was also here. It's great to have you all. If you want to join us in studio, email tickets at twit.tv. We'll make sure there's a chair and a vape pen ready for you. No, we do not provide vape pens. If you want to watch the show at your convenience or listen at your convenience, we have on-demand versions also at twit.tv, our website. Best way to get anything we do is to subscribe in your favorite podcast application, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, Slacker. I can go on and on. There's lots of them. Just search for This Week in Tech. Subscribe. And that way you'll get every episode the minute it's available, just in time for your Monday commute. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next time. Another Twit is in the can. Bye-bye.